Yo, welcome back, everybody. What's good? This is the HOOA podcast. I have back with me Eddy Quan, War of Weakness.
Yes.
And yeah, we decided to run it back, We talked previously about Musashi and books and going about it solo, but this time we're going to free flow a little bit. And we were talking about morning rituals, weren't we?
Yes. Particularly, you know what it is, man? I'm gonna have make a leap of faith here. Like, I think when I first discovered morning rituals,
Yeah.
I thought of it as like a as more of a like productive tool, and the word is tool here, where I was like, all right, I'm gonna use a morning ritual as a way to sort of be more productive, be more efficient with my life,
Hmm.
because I was going through that sort of like really hardcore self-improvement phase.
Yeah.
But now I think of my morning ritual as more literally more of a ritual,
Okay.
like a way to like it's kind of like maybe I'm going a bit too far here, but it's kind of like a celebration
Hmm.
that I'm alive and like the sun is out. I've got this day ahead of me,
Hmm.
and I want to like prime myself to enjoy and get the most out of this day,
Yeah.
rather than like I'm just doing this because I want to you know
For the sake of it. Yeah. But
for the sake of it, I want another hour of productive,
yeah, you want to be a fucking
work in my
machine.
life.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So like, it's
Uh-huh.
funny how we were talking right before we started recording about the
Yep.
difference between doing something
Hmm.
and like the mood of that act.
Yeah.
So we were talking about how like
Yes.
coffee, for example, there's
Uh-huh.
like a mood to coffee that is different from drinking any other beverage.
Exactly.
Or like the mood of a cigar can change the experience of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
that cigar,
It's
right?
crazy. But what do you feel then is the difference between something like a ritual and a habit? You already gave it away a little bit, but can you go a little bit further on that?
Oh man, that's a great question. Shit, how do I?
Yeah,
That's a
because
big
you
question, bro.
purposely chose to call it a ritual and through lexicon and
I think,
conceptualization, something different.
yeah. Do you know what it is, man? I think a
Huh?
habit is more mechanical.
Mm-hmm.
So a habit is just like, you know, it's kind of like in marketing we talk about the difference between features and benefits. Like
Mm-hmm.
the habit is sort of like the feature.
Uh-huh.
The ritual is kind of like, I don't know. The ritual is more of a, dare I say, a celebration. Um, the ritual is the experience. The habit is kind of like the mechanics of like of that experience.
Okay. That's interesting. I've
So
never heard anybody tie it with marketing concepts before because I've read about the difference between the two, like rituals and
yeah,
habit, and people just try to
yeah.
explain it, but it's clear that you've been balls deep into marketing.
Bro, I've been meditating on this for a while actually. I
Okay.
still don't know how to fully explain it,
Yeah.
but like I started this little meme on Twitter a few
Book
months
meme.
ago. Yeah, like I was just making fun of like reading books on Kindle,
Yeah, yeah.
and this
But
is a
you
good
have a Kindle.
example. I do have a Kindle. I'm not using it as much as I used to.
Yeah. Okay.
But the reason why, that's a good example. The
Okay.
reason why I bought the Kindle in the first place was because I wanted to. I thought, oh, it's great. I travel a lot, and the Kindle allows me to keep as many books as I can on my
Yeah.
device without having to physically carry more books.
Yeah.
And what I noticed was that when I went with the Kindle, I reduced the act of book reading into a mechanical habit, as you say,
Ah.
of like the tool. The whole purpose of reading is just to accumulate knowledge. And who cares if I read it on a device, on an electronic device, on paper, right? Who cares?
Who cares? Yeah.
But after like using the Kindle for 5, 10 years now,
That's interesting.
and I use a bit of both because I tend to read fiction
In paperback.
in
Yeah.
paperback, and then I tend
Yeah.
to read like self-improvement books,
Yeah, yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
nonfiction
Keep the
in
mechanical
Kindle.
mechanical and keep the heartfelt with the heartfelt stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like by doing it side by side, what I've noticed is that when I'm reading a novel on paperback or in hardcover or whatever, in a physical book, I appreciate more the ritualistic act of reading. There is something, I know it sounds stupid, but like feeling the paper, smelling the book. I love the smell of those books.
Me as well.
Um,
You should be
I love,
seeing me, yeah, sniffing that fucking shit, yeah.
bro. It's one of the nicest smells in the world. Like an old bookstore. You know that smell
Yeah.
of like old paper. I just love it.
Mhm.
And the sound of turning the page. It's sort of like a meditation. And so you don't get these, these little nuances which make the act a more of a ritual than a habit. You don't appreciate that with a Kindle.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
completely
know?
understand. I was tweeting
Yeah,
about this the other day as well.
yeah,
Um, so first off, you said like maybe you sound like a crazy man, that it sounds like coming out of nowhere, but it actually, from a neuroscientific, logical point of view, it makes perfect sense because a book is engaging in multiple senses. You were
yes,
just saying it. So smell, that's the paper of the book. A Kindle doesn't have a smell. Well, it smells like plastic or fucking soy or some shit.
yeah,
Two, the touch of the paper, the crisp, the crackle, and
yeah,
and then of course the visual. You would say there are three main senses engaging the whole time while you're reading that book. And
yeah,
studies have shown, source have shown that the more you read a real physical book, the more you remember of it. I tweeted it out the other day because yeah, well, I'm not gonna talk about fucking Jack Reacher this whole fucking podcast, but so I was just walking around and I was thinking, hey, I should buy a new Jack Reacher. I was just going back to my roots and I was thinking, oh, this is like a little quirk that I have. I know all the book series, all the names from number one till, well, the latest. I know them by heart, all the titles, and I know roughly what they're about, So I just ran them over in my head while I was walking to the bookstore, trying to find the latest Jack Reacher. And I was thinking, okay, number one is this, number two. And then I stopped at number four and I was like, there's this gaping hole in my memory. Why is that? Because those, you can guess it, because what we're talking about, I didn't read in physical paper. All the other ones I bought, but the middle, like Jack Reacher's, just to binge it for the sake of catching up, like books 4 till 14 or something. That's like fucking 10 books are just
yeah,
gone in the abyss of just ebook consuming, just scrolling like a motherfucker, but not really internalizing the Jack Reacher vibes, like living it, drinking some coffee. He likes coffee, and like it's more ritualistic, just like you said. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And I think I like that comparison you asked me about between having a difference between a habit and a ritual. I think a ritual is really like a celebration of the human experience.
That's beautiful.
And I think
Yeah.
and I think that a lot of modern productivity is very reductive, and a lot of it is because these tools like the Kindle or like an app on your computer,
Yeah.
it sort of reduces these experiences, like I said, these rituals down into like this very reductionist, productivity tool, or just something mechanical. Like it's basically turning what should be part of the overall human experience into something that's just very black and white mechanical. Um, someone, I can't remember who it was, but someone was making this analogy of like how the doorman, like the doorman, people, a lot of engineers will look at the doorman and say, oh, he's just the role of the doorman is to open the door to let you into the building. But really, it's not it. The doorman, he's the protector of the building. He's the go-to guy. He's the guy you should be making friends with the doorman. He's the one who greets you. He's the one who sort of like makes that homecoming experience possible.
Yeah.
And he's not just the guy who opens the door, right? It's the same way as the Kindle. It's not just the device with which you absorb knowledge from.
I get
reading is a ritual. It's an act. It's an experience.
I get it. It's something very human, especially given these days, COVID, lockdowns, spiritual depletion, people taking hits, people taking shots, literally.
Yeah.
And it affects them something very spiritually. I've been tweeting threads, and in my paid newsletter, I talk about spiritual depletion and how you have to train everything to fill up your soul again and your heart. And it's in the act of these microcosm stuff. because
Yeah.
you just blaze. Well, I used to be one of those people actually. You just blaze past the doorman. You're like, fuck him, just open my fucking door. I don't give a fuck about you. You know, like.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's in the act of these small little tidbit stuff that makes you human. And we're here for the full human experience. We're not here to get the first girlfriend, get a pregnant wife, die. You know, this is 4 steps. It's done. You know, right? This is what we're here for, right? No, but it's in the nuances, and well, this is where the soul and spirit really comes into play. Actually, wasn't really going deeper with this stuff, but you made a strong case there, Eddy. Yeah.
Yeah, I like what you said there, man. Spiritual depletion.
Yeah.
I
thought
totally
long and
felt
hard
that
about that unique mechanism, you know, for threads that I wrote.
Yeah. Well, as soon as you said that, like I know exactly what you mean. Yeah, dude. There's like, I mean, there's no way to put it. Spiritual depletion. That's a great way to describe what's been happening in the last 10, 20 years.
Yeah, but good news for you at least. I've been having talks with people on the call, and I can see there's still a twinkle in your eyes, you know?
Yeah,
Because
for sure.
I see people who lost a step, and it's sad, especially when it's your old friends, you know? You look them in the eye, you cannot really say something that confronting. You just more ask, how's it going with your job? How's it with the miss, you know?
Yeah.
And then you find out the darkness and stuff like that, but it's not even about the vaccine, you know? We're not gonna go here pro anti-vaccine, but it's this cataclysmic event that is cataclysmic for them. I'm not saying, well, there are worse things in life, to be honest. If your mom or dad dies, that's worse in my honest opinion, you know. But and yeah, they just were limited in their freedoms, and they were not prepared for that, you know. And yeah.
So how did you arrive at this particular term, spiritual depletion? Obviously, you've thought about it for a while.
So
why did you use those words?
I like, so actually I was trying to find a unique mechanism, and like from the copywriting goats, I kind of like positioned like this product that I had to be more into spirit, you know. And then I thought, okay, this product is going to make you more aligned and more fulfilling with your spirit. And then what is the zeitgeist then? What is happening then? Then I was like, I don't know, just I'm quite a natural in that case. I just write a couple like keywords, you know, catchphrases. I was like, people are spiritually bleeding out. I like to use that one, spiritually bleeding out. And I was like, no, wait, it's like a canister, like a canister, like a container. It is slowly depleting. You cannot see a spiritual container depleting. That's, you know, like if your heart bleeds out or your body, you can see that. But with the spirit, it's ineffable, ephemeral. So it was a nice little like thread that I wrote, or some sales pages, you know, it was back then. But I like to use the word on and on because, well, the COVID and the stuff, we're now fighting Omicron transformers, you know, so Lord knows how far we're going, like, you know.
Bro, it's spirituality is one of those things that it's very, very, it's almost like impossible to explain it with words because words just don't have the range of color.
Yeah.
Like necessary to explain what spirituality really is. It's just something that you feel, man. I feel. Do you know what I mean? Like it's either when you say spiritual depletion, like I understand you straight away. Yeah. Whereas I feel like some people would be like, "The fuck are you talking about?"
It has to do with, like Tej would say, Tej Dosa, the GOAT copywriter, to pull the right heartstrings. And to pull the right heartstrings, you need to have the right words. You and I are quite aligned with our vocabulary, lexicon, our come off. Everything is pretty much in sync. So that's why I can pull your heartstring quite faster than, let's say, if I were to have an audience that's not aware, right? Gary Hubert says I have to make them aware, pump them up the skill a little bit, and then I can use certain vocabulary. But you have to build them up towards that, I would feel, you know?
Yeah, definitely.
Especially when you're talking to your friends, you're gonna say you're spiritually depleted. It doesn't work, you know. I have to tone that shit down. Like I have to like swallow words and like be very calculative what I'm saying. Like,
yeah, I was having this conversation with a good friend of mine yesterday about the difference between, and we were both saying how we want to get back into like reading more fiction and more novels this year.
Yeah, me as well.
And, yeah, bro. HOOA. And we were saying how, you know, and again, I've turned into a sort of meme, like fiction is better than nonfiction. I make that meme a lot on Twitter, even though I read both, just to be completely honest with everyone. But I think the beauty about fiction is that it allows you to capture those nuances, those realities that cannot otherwise be captured with pure facts
Yes.
and logic.
Yes.
And I think, second to just experiencing whatever it is that the book is talking about, fiction and like good storytelling and good quality writing is the closest thing we have, or art. Well, if we get meta, we can say art in general. It's the closest thing we have that allows us to capture, this weird thing that we describe as reality. Because I think Fury Man, like reality is really, it's just reality varies from person to person. It literally is just a story we tell ourselves.
Yeah.
That we map onto the physical world.
Yeah.
That's what reality is to me.
Yeah,
It's
we're basically talking about Plato's cave, right? Plato's cave.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
And so an addendum on the Plato's cave is a thing that I have from my favorite author. He uses this analogy that pre-Homeric tradition, if you believe in evolutionary theory, of course, some people, there are these like outliers who like think the world is flat and shit. So I have to always throw these disclaimers. So, but you have like the cave, you have the first caveman, and a couple cavemen go outside the cave. And there are two types of stories. The caveman who stayed in the cave, they're thinking, what's the story of that caveman who went outside the cave? What is he doing? What is out there? I don't know. I was too chicken shit to go out there. And then the second story is actually the caveman who went out there to explore outside the cave and see other caves and shit. And then he comes back. Well, you could say that's maybe the third story, because the second story he can say, what are those losers still doing in the cave? But he comes back and tells the story of what is his reality that he perceived. Those people didn't see it, but it's just a story. And in this, how do you call it? Like almost like an exchange. It's like a flow, an intersection, this dualistic, synergetic, mutual exchange of stories. This is where the human narrative really takes off. From then on, it's always like that. You see it when it's always like when our corner of Twitter is a little bit further ahead, like let's say Bitcoin and stuff is now a little bit passe actually, but in your friend group they'll be like, what is Bitcoin, and should I jump on it? What is NFTs, or should I take zinc and magnesium, and what is mindset, does it cure AIDS, but but it's like, it's later to the fact, but it's always, they don't know what's there and they want to talk about that story. Basically they're insecure and they're stuck in the cave, but they can just go out there.
Exactly right. Yeah. And it's interesting how, like, as you get older, how that story evolves, right? It's and what's interesting to me is, especially when you compare yourself. I mean, we are a weird breed. Us people on Twitter, we're like in a little bubble. But like most people, I feel, who are on Twitter, who are on this journey of like self-discovery or self-development or whatever. I'm sure you have people like this in your life, like people who from back in the like 10, 15 years ago, who are still like stuck at the back of the cave, like they haven't advanced.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not no, I'm definitely saying that I'm not better per se, but I'm outside the cave. I went there. I bled for it. I have scars on my fingers. Like. Yeah. So it's to be honest, it's a little bit sad because some of these friends of mine, they're fans of the Matrix. It's like it's so ironic and it's not nice, but it's sad. It's sad, actually. But bless them. Like it's that nuance between like burning the bridge. I don't per se burn the bridge, but I know, for example, I cannot talk with him about fucking business model, fucking SaaS, fucking we're gonna make it, those kind of shit. I cannot talk. I cannot talk about that. So I make my peace.
Do you know what's been really interesting though? I've noticed lately is like it's amazing how quickly you can tell if someone else is on the same path. Like when you meet a complete stranger, you can just sort of. It's kind of like we talk about the term based. Like when you meet people in real life who are based, you can sort of sense it within like 2 minutes. Like I was in the park the other day and I started randomly talking to this guy who's from New York, and he's like, he is he studied at the Shaolin Temple. Like he's like into Wing Chun and stuff. and like we only spoke for about 5 minutes. I was just in the park working out. He heard me speaking English to another friend, and he wanted to come and start talking to us. And I could just tell from his energy, like within 2 minutes, I'm like, this motherfucker gets it. This guy's based. Like, we're gonna hang out sometime.
Have you read the book by David Hawkins, Power versus Force, or Frederick Dawson,
Dude,
Energy Levels? That's just what you're
yeah,
talking about, bro.
exactly. That's exactly right. So
Yeah.
I've got like 2 chapters left of Power versus Force.
Mhm.
I actually found the first half of the book, because of the style of the writing, it's very long-winded.
Yeah.
I had to read it very, very slowly. But basically the idea is that people have different levels of awareness and consciousness,
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
And it's like a thing, like it's like an energy force that you actually feel
Yeah.
when you're around people who have the same level of consciousness as you do.
You spotted like this, like a second. I can share a small personal anecdote about that. So I was in the sauna. They closed it down now because of lockdowns. But I walk in, and so on my left, there's this, she's pretty cute, like a blonde girl. She looks at me and she stares at me like a little too long. And I was thinking, well, maybe she's into me or something, you know? But point is, she had one of those looks. Maybe all the players know it, or all the guys with ex-girlfriends. Every girl you've been with, she feels like somebody familiar, even though it's the first time you met her, you know? It's something epigenetically, it's something pheromone based. It's something in neuroscience they call your love map. It's an amalgam of all those things, you know. We don't have to go down that rabbit hole. But so I sit there and I'm just fucking quiet. I'm just like steaming, you know. That's what I'm there for. And this other annoying hag opens her mouth about COVID. Okay, it's also fine, you know. I don't partake. I'm just steaming there. I'm just steaming. But she drags the whole sauna, like it was packed, you know, into like this political Twitter debate, basically. What I don't read, like I mute those, you know. I'm not for that, you know, I'm not for that. But what's a little bit annoying is that, for example, we find out that she's vaccinated and this blonde girl wasn't vaccinated, you know? So, but she starts to say shit to this girl. Yeah, maybe I was a little bit white knighting here, you know, like a small connotation here. But she was saying like, haha, you can never go to the sauna again. Better get vaccine, better get the shot. All your freedoms are going away. She was saying this to her face. And I'm like, maybe I've been reading too much like Jack Reacher books or like Hollywood kind of shit. I'm like, that's fucking trash, you know. Even if she would say that to a dude, I'd be like, shut the fuck up, you know. It's fine that it's happening or whatever, but you don't have to rub it in somebody's face. And but at one point, well, I kind of like reframed it or something, like, you know, like how you do with game, like amplify, disagree, all those kind of shit. So she said, well, you can never go to the sauna. And at one point I got sick of it. Then I looked at the blonde girl. I just looked at her in the eyes because she was looking at me constantly. And then I said, well, let's just go to Budapest. Everything's fucking open there. You know, we'll go to the fucking spas there. And then the whole fucking sauna like froze because I was silent the whole time, you know? And whoa, this guy can talk. And I also spoke English, and well, it's not a native language there, you know? And you're like, who is this guy? And I was slowly becoming the most jack guy in the whole fucking swimming pool. So there's this like force going on. But and then this girl looked at me, and then you could see that she and I had like a the frequency vibe, coming back to that like energy skill that we were talking about. And like a one-off, I saw her at the locker or something. I said, add me on Instagram or something. And like months later, I even went on a date with her, you know? So, but that's how powerful this fucking energy skill is. That like these could be your future spouses. These could be your fucking brother in the trenches. Or if you're not on the same frequencies, those are the people who fucking stab you in the back. It is underrated in my honest opinion, you know?
Yeah, man, that concept, power versus force. Yeah, it was very, very game changing for me. Just to put it in context, like, you know, it's like, you know, we're talking about meeting girls here and it's meeting people. But like, you know, back in the day, if you were a social retard like I was, you got into quote unquote game by reading a few books and like learning lines and like, oh, you gotta touch her, you know, you gotta text her.
Well, kilo escalation is important.
Oh, it is, but like, but that's not how you should learn it. Like, but that's not how the human brain learns. Like, you don't. It's not like a. You don't. There's no manual that's gonna teach. It's not an operating manual that shows you how to get a girl. It's just you have to learn how to channel power, and then it's just the energy thing, right?
Yeah, of
Right.
course.
Whereas when I was younger, I was more insecure. I'd be like, okay, what line do I have to use? What signals am I looking for? Um, you know, how many days do I have to wait to text her? Like all this bullshit.
Yeah.
When really you just have to go with you just have to trust, find your power, and like just rely on your power, right?
I definitely agree with this one, like because of this outlier example that I have. But truth be told, all the women that I converted with, let's call it like with marketing terms, it was always smooth sailing. I didn't even have to try, to be honest.
Exactly.
You might know it as well from your personal experience, and everybody's listening here.
Yes.
It's so I'm gonna say like some guys got better game, of course, like the Pareto rule and whatever. But y'all guys know that the harder you tried, it usually went to shit. Even if you got her for like one day or whatever, afterwards it went to shit. You know this. And it's just smooth sailing, like it was so dumb. Like what I said to her, what I said to her in the fucking locker was so fucking dumb. I just said, add me on Instagram or some shit. It didn't even matter, but she just said yes. And then I got her number, and then we went on. It just was all about vibe, just energy, It didn't fucking matter what came out of my fucking mouth. Not saying I'm at fucking mastery level or some shit, but it depends about the synergy.
Yeah. So how did you stumble on the power of like, well, picking up on energy levels and vibes and so forth?
Well, this specific mental model was introduced to me by Tesh Doza in the Frederick Dodson book. Y'all should give it a read. But I've met some really trippy people who are synesthetic. For people in the unknown, synesthesia is the crossing of the senses. For people fans of True Detective Season 1, Rustin Cole is a synesthesist.
Great book. Great book. Oh, great movie. Great show, sorry.
It means crossing of the senses. It means you can see music, you can smell words, etc., etc. You can go on what I'm talking about. And actually, I think Authoritet has it. Like we were at this Vivaldi concert, and suddenly he went into like a weird trance or some shit. And he later came out and said, "Yo, bro, it's the first time in months that I meditated." I said, "Yo, why you're being a fucking weirdo?" And then he said, "No, I was really into it. I could almost taste the words." Then I said, "Yo, that's some Hannibal shit. I didn't know you had that." And what's really funny about that, throughout my whole life, I've met people like that. The girl I'd been seeing last year, she had it as well. And she said, "Yo, don't tell this to anybody, but I can do this and this and this, so I'm not going to tell which. But I was like, yeah, sure, whatever, I'm not, how do you say, people always like look down on me, like the shit that I knew and, esoteric stuff. And I don't give a fuck. People can say anything, if you say you can see dead people, I'll listen to you. But my point is, as I went on, as I read, as I experienced, I always came to like energy levels and shit like that. And truth be told, actually, you said, how did I came into contact with this? Through the ringer, when my energy level, when my power level was down to the demonic levels, I've been there. Not so low that I was pretty down, but I'm talking just a little bit down. That's the moments I got into deep shit. I'm talking like what most people wouldn't experience, I haven't talked about some shit. There's no need to go into that. But if I like typical calculative me, when I got out of it, I'm journaling on it. I almost write, it's your own fault because your energy was too dark. You did it yourself. And yeah, so for example, I could have scored pussy, could have scored fucking money. It didn't matter, but the darkness attract darkness. And looking back on it, still to this day, I'm a little bit cautious when I go out. I even warn my friends, I have darkness in me and people are going to try to siphon it out of me. So be careful. And they were like, "No worry, you're with me now." And when I'm with somebody that has good vibes, it's fine, But I have a certain shadow, like the Jungian shadow in me. Once it comes out, it's like pretty bad,
Yeah, dude, it's really interesting. Like a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, and that's an interesting point you just brought up about the darkness inside you.
Yeah,
I think that first of all, everyone has that, and you have to recognize that you have it inside you. And I've noticed actually the people who are like the biggest assholes, like the worst human beings alive, are the ones who pretend they don't have that inside them. And the ones who are the most humble recognize that they have that inside of them, and that it's a constant battle to control it, especially if you're a man.
Yeah. Mhm.
But like a lot of the stuff that we're talking about, like, you know, finding your energy levels, recognizing the darkness inside of you. Like I've felt that I've always a lot of this shit I've always understood intuitively,
Mhm.
but it wasn't until I met someone like you and had a conversation or I read a book that
Yep.
I go, oh, so that's what I was feeling when I was like 10 years old, like
Yeah.
that I couldn't explain.
Yeah.
And I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, we always talk about like darkness, you know, and so I brought up the Jungian shadow integration. How do you feel like that plays a part in it? Have you read up on Jungian since the last time we talked? And how do you see that connected to noir stories like you like to read, and specifically James Ellroy? This is the part where you can shine, Eddy.
Hang on, what do you mean by the union?
Mm, well, he's the first guy who coined it, in my honest opinion. You can just think about shadow integration, how they like to talk about. Well, even Brute talks about it, the dark side, and you know all those kinds of
Oh,
stuff, and
sure.
accepting it. But to be honest, Jung coined it, so
Yeah.
you know.
Right. Okay, I see what you're talking about now. Yeah. Dude, Ellroy, man, fuck. I started reading James Ellroy. He was the first. So just for the listeners don't know, I've always been drawn towards dark like stories.
Yeah.
And
Disclaimer:
it's not because I'm
Eddy
a
the Dark Quan. Yeah.
yeah, it's not because I'm a dark person. It's actually quite the opposite. So I grew up in
Yeah.
like very sort of like vanilla,
Yeah.
white, suburban, upper middle class environment.
Yeah.
So I've never like I went to a school where like if you were caught smoking marijuana, it was like considered like you were a bad guy. Like
Yeah.
it was just very, very vanilla.
Mhm.
And because unlike the other kids who grew up around me, like who just sort of like enjoyed their life, I was always curious about the darker elements of life.
Mhm.
Like I was always not that I wanted to like go that route, but I was always curious about, you know, what is it about a person that compels them to become a criminal? What is it about a person that compels them to sell drugs or to kill people or to
Yeah.
rape people? Not that I want to do those things, obviously, but because I just want to understand because
Yeah.
I want to understand. And so my first foray into the darkness of humanity was reading LA Confidential by James Ellroy, which is,
Yeah.
you know, if you've ever seen the film, it's a fantastic film with Russell Crowe and Guy
I have it
Pearce.
written right here. What do you think about LA Confidential, the movie?
So Ellroy talks a lot about this about you know the period between like 1950s and like 1970s Los Angeles,
Mhm.
where there was a lot of like just sex, prostitution, drugs, um, you know, Hollywood stars getting to like nasty shit.
Mhm.
And the way he wrote in a way that was like really raw and rugged.
Okay.
And like up until that point, I had never read or watched anything that was like that in my life.
Yeah.
Um, and it was refreshing to me because of like I told you, because of like the environment I grew up in. Like I had never been exposed to that world.
Yeah, it provides a
And for
contrast, so to say. That's what I'm
yeah,
hearing.
exactly. And like it does two things. A, it makes me appreciate my upbringing more.
Uh-huh.
But B, it just makes me like more fascinated by like how big and like complicated this world is.
Makes
So
sense,
so
actually.
yeah, so yeah, I basically devoured every book that was in the high school library that had James Ellroy. I read all his books, and that's how I got into sort of like that noir detective genre.
Yeah.
You know, sex, drugs, and murder, basically.
I can relate with you, Eddie, because what you're sketching actually is you're talking about the human psychology. This
Yeah,
this tint, this hue, this flavor of books. It's not about the books, it's not about the characters, it's about the human psychology behind it. If you were
yes,
an anime
absolutely.
buff, there would be definitely a niche that you would have liked. Shit like Death Note, where it's
I
about
know that though. I've not actually read the comic
yeah,
books. I watched a movie which was
yeah,
actually really crap, but I know
yeah.
the story. I know I'm familiar with the story.
But it's about this psychology of the human mind. Like you have the killer and the cop, and you have these crimes. What makes them tick? Why do they do this? The motivations. And in that era, you also had Raymond Chandler, of course, you know, and
Godfather. Yep.
you know, you know. with the Philip Marlowe series and this other one. Shit, I forgot the name. I have to look at Ross McDonald. You would really love those as well.
Yes.
Because those have those psychological edge. And even Agatha Christie, in her, let's say, in her most famous books, such as Murder on the Orient Express, Death on the Nile, and Then There Were None, it's more about the puzzle, the murder mystery, you know, the how done it. But the most intriguing human psychology narratives are actually the why done it. And I think people like you and I, if I'm like putting words in your mouth, are resonating with those stories because this is pretty interesting shit, you know?
Yeah. No, it's not just human psychology, but specifically human motivation.
Yes.
And that's why detective stories are so interesting, because when a detective's trying to solve a crime, you know, it seems really obvious. It's always like, it always unravels like this, like based on the evidence that's on paper, it seems really obvious.
Yeah.
Like it's obviously that guy who killed this person. But then as the story progresses, you see it's really more complicated than that.
Yeah.
And the real murderer actually killed the person over like the dumbest human thing.
Yeah.
You know, because she slept with the pool boy or some shit like that. You
know,
he got jealous and killed the pool boy by accident. You know, it's always something really, really stupid, and that's why detective stories are so interesting, because it's like a deep exploration in what happens when your incentives are misaligned. What happens when human motivations turn from light to dark?
I really like that. When the incentives are misaligned. I like that one. That's a good one.
Yeah, exactly. And it's kind of like a warning signal of like what could happen. I mean, it's an extreme example of like what could happen to you if your incentives are misaligned. You know,
that's good.
what would you do if your daughter killed her boyfriend? Like, would you cover it up for her? You know, it sounds like, oh, I would never do that. But then like when you're in the situation, you actually might do that.
Yeah. I've been having these talks, especially
and I like putting myself in these situations because it keeps me humble. Because it's like, you know, if I ever was in that situation, like that's a hard choice.
It's a hard choice,
You know, and things like that humble you.
It's good. It's actually I think when I went to the bookstore, it's a George R. Martin quote. Readers, before they die, live multiple lives. And I think it's a little bit like that, because you're stepping into the skin of another person, right? So
I'm gonna write that down. By the way, I've never taken notes on the podcast. This is like the first time I've been taking notes on the podcast.
Really? Damn, I feel honored, man.
Yeah, dude.
I'm taking notes as well, more so to keep the conversation going, so people can steal my tricks here. But
a reader lives 1,000 lives. Is that what you said? A reader.
Yeah, I'll send it to you by George R. R. Martin. I think you can Google search it, because it's true, right? You know.
But it's absolutely true, and I think that's why you and I we love travel so much. Because if you read books and you travel, it's like you live like a million lives than the regular person doesn't live. You know.
We can talk about that actually. This is the perfect time. So me and brother Eddy were talking about inserting novelty in the humdrum, the slog, and the boring routine of our lives, and just going to random trips on the whim. So just to take over here the floor, a mini anecdote. So after I spoke with Eddy, I really felt it, because I was having it as well. So I went to the train station the next day. I kid you not. I woke up. I woke up late actually. So I wanted to wake up early, but I woke up late. So I dressed up really well, you know, so you never know who you're gonna meet, right? So I'm going to the train station, and I look on the board. I'm like, hey, that city, I remember that. I went there once on a bus relay when I was going to Vienna or some shit. Then I thought, you know what? I'll just take the fucking train there, because it was the first one in 50 minutes or something. So I buy a ticket. I have no plan, nothing. I have just my phone and just my wallet, you know, just like Jack Reacher, you know. But I lived nearby, you know, so it was safe. It was safe. So I just take the train, listen to my fucking audiobook on the train. But I already felt the energy, because I'd never been there for real, and it was fucking exciting. So it was only 30 minutes away, you know. So I'm there. I'm like, yo, I'm finally here. And I just start walking. I start smoking. The sun was shining. Actually, it was fucking cold, but the sun was shining. And I just started exploring the city. Usually I don't take coffee, but I went to a typical Euro corner. Had a how do you call it, a cappuccino style, a latte macchiato or something, and just smoking and try to stay away from my phone. You know, that's fucking poison, fucking addiction, fucking toxic. just took some photos, took some shots, maybe for Instagram or some shit. And as I went on and on, it got darker. Of course, I had to make the choice, because when it gets dark, I go into the other side of the fury. So I had to decide, am I gonna booze or not? So I was already drinking too much that week, I think. But guess what? I ended drinking fucking lots of vodka sodas, talking to bartenders, speaking to drunk chicks, and But
Yeah.
it was about the novelty that did it, actually. So in hindsight,
Yeah.
it's not a great story per se. It's not one of the top 10 of mine, but it's one of the most recent, because I purposefully injected novelty in the mundaneness of the day-to-day life.
Yeah, this is an important one, dude. I think, especially in our little corner of Twitter, like I said, like I got into like self-development, productivity, whatever you want to call it, in like when I was like, say 26, 27.
Yeah, for sure.
And I went through a life. I'm naturally a creative, like right-minded person, as you know. So when you get into that space of like, I want to be like productive, and I want to like make money, and I want to be, I want to self-improve and so forth. You sort of like box yourself in and try and like force these routines on yourself, at least for me. And because like what I noticed is that when I start to get like really hyper productive in my life, I start to feel a sense of guilt when I didn't have that routine, when I went from order to chaos.
Yeah.
And you and I started talking about this in December, remember? When I was like, the importance of like taking that random trip, of basically injecting that novelty / spontaneity and basically forcing it into your life.
Yeah. It's basically
so
what
now,
we're doing right now, by the way. Very meta. Because
exactly.
If this was too rehearsed, you and I would feel the like the boredom of it, promotional Twitter, and
Yeah, exactly. Like before I got on this, when you told me like I want to have you on the podcast, my immediate thought was like, oh shit, what are we gonna talk about? What are the topics? And then I was like, bro, just chill out. Like, this, like, we got this. We're just gonna talk, turn on the record button, and it's gonna flow. We're gonna let natural energy take us wherever it's gonna go.
Yeah.
And I think that when you get into that sort of like, productive self-improvement space, you try and like impose these routines in yourself and try and like impose free will into your life.
Yeah.
But the reality is you don't really have free will, you have a little sense of control, I guess, but not really. Because I can be as prepared as I can to walk out my door, but there's still always a chance that some truck's gonna come drive on the curb and like knock me the fuck out.
Yeah.
And so, what I do now is like my day-to-day life, I have my routine, but I always like leave a little bit of space for some random spontaneity.
That's
like
cool.
That guy I met in the park there that I was telling you about. Like I had scheduled like an hour to work out in the park.
Yeah.
But it ended up being 2 hours because I ended up speaking to this guy and talking about random shit about New York and stuff. And it was a great conversation, and I formed a new friendship because of that.
I relate with that. When I bought this booze, I had time to kill before the train back home came. And by accident, this guy started talking to me as well. I spoke to 2 random dudes. And truth be told, like for the guys who are a little bit, this is a little bit tangent. Hey, that's good stuff.
Yeah.
A tangent for the guys who want to have some actionable game advice, actually. So create a certain lifestyle where you're up and about. Because I was talking to News K&K in real life like a couple of weeks ago about talking to women in real life, but making it semi-day game. Like you make it spontaneity by going into life. I was getting this, for example. I didn't talk to any chicks, but I could have, I was getting my booze for Eddy. That was the mission. But if I see a hot chick and she looks at me with a cute smile, I'll say, yo, you buying booze as well. Just do it. And don't think about the fucking openers, all that fucking garbage shit, because you're gonna like freeze up, the 3-second rule, all that fucking shit. Point is, like, I have been ranking up some like approaches, like not many, but a couple, like while I was doing this stuff, like this trip that I was telling you about. There was this girl watching, we were watching because it was around Christmas time actually. And there was beautiful, actually, Rogue Welf would love it. There was this guy playing like the flute, and it sounded like the track music of Zelda or like The Witcher, very like fantasy, right? And it was dark, and there were Christmas lights, and it was a very mystical, magical type of feeling. Instantly thought, yo, Rogue Wolf should be here. He'll love that type of music. But there was a girl, she was enraptured by the music as well. And then she did something with the sheet music that fell or something. And that was like a situational opener, you know? Then I said, hey, are you part of the band, you know? And she was like, she, maybe like in 50 million years, not a guy had spoken to her on the fucking street. So I had to like calm down my energy and like just keep it chill, like, hey, what are you doing? And then finally go for the number and pounce, you know? But point is, get into the groove of living your life, going to the gym, buying your supplements, getting your coffee at your mains, you know, getting your whiskeys, getting your smokes. And then there's always going to be pretty girls somewhere. And if you want them, have the balls to be in that mindset, then have the energy ready, you know, like they say with MMA fights, the MMA fight is won in training camp. So in that moment when you fuck up, actually, you haven't done the reps, you haven't done your sales calls, you haven't done, you know, you are not proud of your frame and you cannot present it as such. And the fuck up in the moment is actually because of the prep you did not do, you know?
I love that, man. And the fight game is a great analogy for life. Like I was watching this interview with a really well-known boxing trainer, and this is a long time ago. This is like after one of the fights, and his fighter didn't do a great job.
Okay.
And they were like, oh, you know, why didn't you prepare him for X, Y, and Z?
Okay.
And he said, because at the, you know, before the fight, you said that you had perfect training camp. And he's like, you're right. You know, we did have a perfect training camp. At the end of the day, when the fighter gets in the ring, he's fighting on instinct. Yeah. He's gonna see things that you can't see as a trainer watching the fight from outside the ring, and he's going to fight based on what his gut instinct tells him to do. He's not thinking in there. He's just reacting. He's just fighting because he's well prepared and everything. But like maybe he saw something he didn't, you know, that we didn't see, and that's why he didn't throw that body shot. Yeah.
Reminds me actually of Canelo versus Triple G #2. Are you talking about that fight actually?
Fuck, that's a great fight, man. Dude.
But the trainer said exactly the thing that you just said. So he was
might be the fight. That might be the fight I'm thinking about. I think that's it.
Because his trainer, Abel Sanchez, said to Triple G, in the interview said, yo, Triple G was backing up. Was that part of the plan? And then if you watch another video, Triple G said, well, I wasn't feeling like going Mexican style like I always do. This fight asked more that I fight from the ropes, and I gave him some space. In my honest opinion, Triple G won both fights, but you know, bro,
let's not. I'm gonna be completely honest with you. Like, I have to get this out there. So, I watched Triple G Canelo 2 live. I watched it in the bar, like a noisy bar, with no commentary, with a bunch of Canelo fans. Yeah, and I thought Canelo won 7-5.
Yeah.
Then I rewatched it like literally about 2 months ago. This is the second time I've seen the fight with the commentary, but like by myself in my living room. Yeah. And I was like, no, G won this fight like easily. I because what happened was, this is why like boxing is so interesting, because like the realities just shapes like based on like what you're doing. The first fight, Canelo wins the first 3 rounds. Like he's back in triple.
So you're talking about Canelo Triple G 1 now, or
no 2?
Oh, okay.
So I'm talking about the first 3 rounds of the second fight.
Yeah.
Canelo's pushing Triple G back.
Yeah.
But because of those first 3 rounds, it feels, because you've never seen Triple G push back in ever.
Exactly. You don't see that.
You really think he's losing. You're like, oh, he's losing.
No, but he's not taking impactful shots. He was not taking
no. But what's crazy is like the middle rounds, like Triple G's landing the bigger shots. Like in my opinion, like the way cleaner and more powerful shots, he's landing.
Yeah.
So on the second watch, I actually had G winning 7-5, if not 8-4.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a weird thing, but I'm biased. I tend to like more aggressive fighters, because to me, it's not just boxing; it's professional prize fighting. And the first criteria is like the cleaner and harder shots. And I just thought Triple G won that one, but it's interesting how like the perspective changes. And I've spoken to a lot of people who actually go to live fights, and they're like, yeah, when you watch the fight live, it's completely different from watching on TV.
Oh yeah, when you're in the ring, it's a little bit different. So one time I went to UFC Darren Till versus Masvidal, and I saw Masvidal KO Darren Till in the second round, and the way he KOs him is beautiful. Yeah, well, sad for Darren Till. I was rooting for Darren Till actually, but
Yeah.
how he KOs him, I've never seen something like that on the screen. It was like a dull thud, and the whole O2 arena, I kid you not, in London was ooh, ooh, like ooh, like I'm
Wow.
talking like 40,000 people, like, because they were rooting for the Englishman, right? And like,
Right.
and he falls
Damn.
like this. He falls like a wet bag of potatoes, like.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. It's scary. How far away from the ring were you?
I was pretty far though. To be honest, I was pretty far. So if I was really close, it would have been even different. It's strange. But yeah, this reminds me of that boxer thread you once did. Like, tell us a little bit like about. So we're talking about non-mechanical intention, and tweeting from the heart is aligned with that. Like, tell us a little bit about the idea about putting out that boxing thread and having no strategy, no intention whatsoever, just love and energy. And how does these things come about?
Which thread? The one about Sugar Ray Robinson?
I think so. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's weird, man. So I opened my Twitter account because I honestly I just wanted to make money, right? That's all I wanted. Yeah. But after like 3-6 months on the platform, I started hanging out with guys like you. I started like, I would because I'm tweeting from my personal voice, so obviously I'm gonna have certain personal thoughts I want to put out there. And what I didn't expect from Twitter was like making friendships and like, talking to you, talking to guys like Rogue and Thomas Bevan and Jim Clare, and talk to all these great guys about just things that we have in common, like we're bros. That aspect of Twitter, which is the part I like most, I did not expect.
Yeah, of course.
And so like I do have my agenda in terms of like, selling my products and making money and so forth. But on the other side of me is that I'm just a guy who likes to have interesting conversations.
Yeah.
And so like boxing's like, it's been a huge part of my life for the last like 10-15 years since I've gotten into it. Yeah. And so that thread about Sugar Ray Robinson came about because I don't like the way modern fight game is run. Like I feel that it's very. I feel that I love Floyd Mayweather, but like the way I think Floyd really changed the business of boxing.
Yeah, definitely.
Like he really made it. I respect the guy because his nickname is Money Mayweather. Like he's about the money. He's not shy about that. He literally tells you when he sold the fight with Logan Paul, he was like, "This is about the money. This is a robbery.
This is a robbery.
I'm here to take."
He came in with a fucking mask. Yeah.
And people still fucking paid for it, and I respect Floyd for that.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like a pure boxing fan, so like I get upset when people look at Floyd and like, oh, he's the greatest ever, and I'm like, no, you guys don't understand shit about the history of boxing. Like, there's some great men out there that you cannot compare Floyd to. And Floyd himself, if you spoke to Floyd off camera, he would tell you like Sugar Ray Robinson's the greatest fighter that ever lived.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to pay homage to a great man, man. People don't understand this about boxing. Like boxing used to be a 15-round fight.
Yeah. It was a prize fight. It was a fucking slugfest. Yeah.
15 rounds. This is pre-PEDs.
Yeah.
And not just that, nowadays, for the Canelo Triple G fight to take place, they have to negotiate for multiple years. And
man. Yeah.
And if you're Canelo Alvarez, at most you fight 4 times. 4 times a year is a lot now.
It's
but
a
like
lot.
If you're Canelo Alvarez, you're only going to fight once or twice because you're making $30-50 million per fight.
Yeah.
Sugar Ray Robinson, this guy fought. He would have a fight and then he would have a rematch in like 2 weeks.
That's fucking insane, right?
It's just unfathomable to me. And so I just want people to appreciate that.
That's cool, man. That's cool. It's a little bit history, art, masculinity in there. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And I think, I'm a big fan of like paying homage to, the wisdom and the knowledge that we got from that's been passed down to us from history.
Yeah.
That's why I put out a tweet today. The older I get, the older the books I want to read.
Yeah. I got you.
Because there's so much wisdom in there. And
I get that actually, because a little side tangent. The reason why I quote unquote categorize as a quote unquote reader is that what was it? Oh yeah, I used to have classics at school, and I had this teacher who his goal in life was to be a Homo universalis. For people who don't know what that is, it's a Renaissance man. And it's basically, for you young guys listening, it's the train everything meme basically, but very cultural, very ascetic, very aesthetic. And point is, this teacher, he was annoying the shit out of me. I didn't give a fuck what he was saying actually. But as I got older, after I graduated from high school, kid you not, like maybe even like months later or a year later, I was watching this show. Well, people can know about it. It's called One Tree Hill. But the reader, he was a writer and a reader, and he was reading shit like The Scarlet Letter, Moby Dick, The Great Gatsby, Mark Twain, you know, classics, like really classic. I'm thinking, I would really want to read that, you know, like Catcher in the Rye, you know. So
Yeah.
I'm not saying these are the old books that you're talking about, but that was old for me back then. And as I get older and older, I get appreciative of, I don't know, like Dostoevsky. I hate Dostoevsky, don't get me wrong, but I get appreciative of it. Doesn't mean that I like them, but you know, you get appreciative of it. Shakespeare. Sometimes I read King Lear is the greatest book on the fucking planet. I'm thinking I have to read King Lear again. Macbeth, I really love Macbeth. That's one of my favorite
Great story.
because it's quite short, but it's full of human psychology again. The motives. It's
Macbeth
so
is like if you're a man, like the Macbeth story will resonate with you because that's literally what everything we talk about, like dealing with the light and the darkness inside of you.
Yes.
That's really the Macbeth story, right?
Yeah. And for movie buffs out there, the rendition with Michael Fassbender is gorgeous. The way it's shot.
Oh, I was just talking to a friend about that yesterday. Beautiful. So it's good, huh?
It's visually enrapturing, very cinematic. It's almost like Blade Runner 2048. This orange glow, this hue, and a little bit too much lens flare, but very how do you call it? Like an epos, like a sagas. You know, like a saga. And
is it a modern version, Fury?
No, it's just like with swords and shit. It's Macbeth.
Oh, okay,
Macbeth.
But,
it's in a modern spin, you could say. But it's cool as an introduction for somebody who doesn't want to read Macbeth. But it's beautiful. They say the lines. They talk in poetry. You know, it's not. It's Shakespeare, and it's fucking cool. And I heard Denzel Washington was doing a rendition as well.
Coen Brothers directed that.
Yeah. I want to check that one out as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna watch that. I'm gonna watch that for sure. Yeah, man. Macbeth is probably my favorite. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, it's probably my favorite. My favorite, Shakespeare story.
Yeah.
It's the one I resonate with most, definitely as a man.
You were talking about homage. Tell us a little bit like homage to great men. Why does it motivate you? Like, for example, I'm not saying Kanye West is a great man per se, but I remember you were doing a Kanye West piece, and I don't know, there's something about you that wants to pay homage to pivotal men in history, iconoclasts, harpooneers, marauders. Tell us a little bit about your incentives, your motives, and let's take us deep there. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have to get a bit personal because like there's no other way to explain this. But basically, my dad left my family. My parents divorced when I was very young.
Yeah.
And thankfully, my mom remarried to my stepdad, and he's been in my life ever since. And he's a great man, but he's never been like a father figure to me. Like our relationship is weird. Like we get along, and I love him for what he did for us, but he was never a strong leader in the household. Mm-hmm. And I've always been, as you know, like I've always been like an older soul. Like all my best friends are like older than me, and I cling to guys like like Lobo, who I love, wise men like that. And I've like as I grew up, the way I sort of like, I was a bit of a loser, not massive loser, but I was just like shy and like unconfident in school because I didn't have a strong father figure in my household.
I got it.
And the only way I learned how to be a man was by obviously traveling and like living my life. But meeting and befriending older men as I grew up, and on top of that, studying, reading books from, and learning from great men of history.
I get it. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they laid the path down for me, and like I just my entire life, my entire 20s was basically seeking like male leadership in my life. Like that's what I needed.
I get it.
You know what I mean? That's how I got into like business and like PUA stuff and stuff. Yeah. It wasn't because, I just want to pick up girls. It was, I mean, obviously I want to pick up girls, but I wanted to like be a man. So
Yeah.
and the only way I knew how to be a man, because I didn't have any strong male leaders in my life,
Yeah.
I had to leave my home and leave my inner my immediate circle of friends, because they were all just sort of like just not very strong men, and like seek friendships with older guys, read books, like study even guys on cinema, and like find basically strong male role models to look up to.
I get it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I resonate a lot with that actually. I have the same thing. Well, not the same origin story, of course, but would you say then there's something with the zeitgeist going on that a lot of young men don't have male powerful role models? Is it something
I
going
mean,
on?
oh, it's been a huge problem.
Yeah.
I don't know what the statistics are, but I know like a lot of it's a massive divorce situation in the West, and that's why like a lot of the guys in our space, like the Tate brothers, for example, they get a lot of young male followers, because young men are that's craving this sort of leadership in their lives.
Yeah.
Um, and there's a lot of great like male leaders on our little space on Twitter, thankfully.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I think it's just a lot of the young guys, and like a lot of the simping that you see on the internet.
Yeah.
It's just because like guys are fucking weak as shit, and they don't know what to do. They don't have that strong male role model to teach them how to be a man.
Yeah. I can share a little bit like a personal anecdote that I had with a story that, my bro, we were talking about children, and he was talking about an anecdote or a study that he read that if you have like half-blood children, which statistically him and me are gonna have if we're not marrying an Asian woman or whatever, and him like a Russian stuff. So he said something, yo, bro, your half-blood children are gonna have issues or something. That was in the study, right? And then I said, well, of course they're gonna have issues, but they're gonna be lucky with me in the sense that, well, I'm not gonna say that I'm gonna be the number one dad. I'm not. You cannot say it's. You have to be in the shoes first. But I said if they want to talk about it, they can come to the right source, because somebody as me who has, I don't talk about this on the timeline at all. I don't want to fucking toot my horn or be self-absorbed and talking about my problems. But as an Asian young man in the West, you're gonna face some fucking issues.
Yeah, for sure.
And the problem that my kid is gonna have, that he's gonna be a fucking half-blood, I'm gonna be saying shit like, yo, you're fucking lucky. For example, if I have a son, he's gonna be taller than me. And I'll be saying, yo, bro, you know how I did that? Because your mother's fucking tall. I did that for you. So shut the fuck up, And it's like, no, but my point is like more like a framework, and going through the ringer, having this like, I'll be having like, if he wants to read it, all these massive journals that I have, decades upon decades of wisdom, and we could just talk about it. He'll be saying like, I'm not fitting in or whatever. I'll be like, yeah, well, you're half blood, blah blah. There are gonna be issues, but it's not gonna be an issue, if you understand what I mean. I got this. Like, I was born for that actually. Like, if the next generation want to talk about that, be my own spawn or whatever, it's something that is in my circuit. I'm hardwired every day. The same as you. Like, I study men like James Bond as well, like from cinema. I dissect everything.
Yeah.
Thomas Shelby, everything, the way they walk, the way they speak, little verbal tics, whatever. I still do it as a fucking habit, just like you do. So that's what intrigued me.
Yeah.
Like, why is Eddy doing this? Like, I have the similar habits as well. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's really the reason behind the paying homage to stronger men and men of of history. It's funny you mentioned like Thomas Shelby. Like my equivalent would be like, I don't know, Indiana Jones, I guess.
I like Indiana Jones. It's great. Yeah. But what's cool
Yeah.
about Indiana Jones? He has that line. They ask him like, "What are we gonna do now?" And then he says, "I don't know," or something, right? Or have
Yeah.
no fucking idea or something. That's cool about him. He's very very spontaneous. Yeah.
Well, he was a virtuous man. Like he was all about the classic line of "It belongs in a museum." Like he killed these fucking terrorists. just so he can like protect the statue and stick it in the museum. And that was the whole. I mean, that was an aspirational story, right? Like you're as a man, even if you have to go, even if you have to go through hell, like as a man, you're supposed to do the right thing, right? And in his case, it was like preserving history with in his role as a what do you call it? Not an architect. My vocabulary is gone out. The whiskey's starting to hit me.
What? Wait, he's like
archaeologist. Yeah.
So, so we're basically talking about iconoclasts. Like we talked about Chandler, and he brought forth Philip Marlowe. We're talking about detectives and Indiana Jones. Like, there's this line by Raymond Chandler that he says the only thing that matters in storytelling, and I see storytelling like this extension, like into history, And he says style is the only thing that endures. And style, and he means that in a very broad sense. He does not mean flair or your sartorial choices, sartorial maximalism, but style as in lifestyle and way of being and living authentically. And basically, like you said, Indiana Jones is a cool guy. Like, my question to you is like, why has these guys stood the test of time in your opinion? And what is your take on this quote that style is the only thing that endures? And do you think it's the most important element of storytelling? If so, what is?
Shit, I don't know what the most. For me, the most important thing about storytelling is the character. I've always been drawn towards character-driven stories.
Yeah.
So I don't know. As I'm not, I haven't written as many books as Chandler, so I don't know if I would agree with that necessarily. I know as a story reader, the thing that resonates with me the most are the characters. Style is an interesting one because style is sort of like your signature, right? So I guess as an author, that would make sense.
Yeah.
Because your style is sort of like, that's how you mark your print in history.
Yeah.
And he was a style master, so like, he has all the rights to say that. I would agree with that, I guess, as an author, but definitely as a story reader. As a story reader, definitely for sure, it's the characters it's the characters that what stick in my memory when I think about my favorite stories, whether it's in book or movie form. Now, in terms of like why certain male characters sort of stick around, I think it's an authenticity thing.
Perfect.
Like a lot of the movies and the stories that we're seeing that are popular these days, they're sort of like, they're just forgettable, right? You don't remember any of them.
They're forgettable. For fuck yes. Yes. That's
I was telling my friend this the other day, I was like, isn't it amazing how I can remember like an action movie from the 90s?
Yeah.
But like I just watched some fucking Marvel movie. I don't even remember what the fuck happened in the story.
It's because of the character is flimsy.
The character is flimsy. The story isn't compelling.
They don't understand the hero's journey enough, like even in fucking Shang-Chi in the latest Marvel, spoiler alert, he actually physically slays a dragon,
Right.
That's part of the hero's journey. At the end, you're supposed to slay a dragon, but he himself as a hero, in my opinion, he's not fully fleshed out. I'm not to say that I can do better, maybe I'm just a fucking armchair screenplay writer, but I get definitely your point, man, that the characters these days aren't authentic enough,
Yeah, they don't. A good character is supposed to. You're supposed to be able to relate to them.
Yeah,
that's the first thing. So like, so that's why a lot of modern movies put me off, because I'll watch it and I'll be like, well, this character's not resonating. Why is this character not resonating?
Yeah,
and it's because it's like it's just fake, man. It's way too fake.
Yeah.
They're trying to force a narrative that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And so that immediately, like, if I'm watching a movie or I'm reading a book, and I go into my left brain, I start analyzing like what's wrong with this. Like, it's already a shit story because it's not pulling me in.
Okay. But
Like,
a small little tangent there. Don't you feel that sometimes, I definitely get that relatability, but a small tangent is sometimes you have these larger than life characters that, truth be told, you can never really relate with, but are still captivating to watch and read and immerse with. That's still possible, right? As an
oh, of
authentic,
course,
fleshed out, full of words character.
of course. Yeah, I mean, like, movies by definition are larger than life, right? That's the whole like
Yeah.
point of cinema. But there still should be something, maybe an energy or something in that, like the
Yeah.
dialogue, for example. Like no one actually speaks like that in real life, but
Yeah.
there should be some sort of energy there or something in there that's
That's
relatable.
yeah.
That's
That's so
relatable to
human.
that should be related to be relatable to you as a human being,
Yeah, I got you.
and it should capture the human experience, and so even if it's like an extreme sense, it should capture, like, make you feel, the full width of the human experience in some
Mhm.
form.
But let's go a little bit deeper, like a little bit deeper down the rabbit hole. Like in spirituality, they talk about viewing yourself as the character. Not
Mhm.
everybody does that, or it's not everybody's cup of tea, but you and I have talked about that. But these lessons that we're talking about endearing characters and endearing characters, like how do you see that incorporating in your life as a story, your life story, and you as an
Yep.
author writing your life story? How are you writing your character day to day, if not month to month, or your intentions? Like, how are you going to make
Yeah.
yourself authentic and pivotal and well worth the legacy that you feel that is a man's vocation?
I think I think we all have an ideal version of who we want to be, right?
Mhm.
And I think that ideal version, it's hard to put on paper because it's sort of like it's sort of like a sponge that's absorbed like all these different role models that you've met, all these different characters that you've met in real life and on screen. Like the ideal person that who you aspire to be, you visualize yourself to be one day, um, is sort of like a mix mash of like all these characters that you've come across in your
Yeah.
life. Like that's why it's so important to consume stories, because like once you consume all these stories, you start adding all these traits into your character. So like, I can't, I've never, I don't want to express like vivid detail, but like, for me, it's like the guy who I'm thinking of is like, he's obviously he's physically in shape, he's confident, he's creative, he lives a life of contentment, he's not complicated, he has a fine appreciation of like whiskey and cigar and things like that. Like there's all these different, yeah, cheers, HOOA.
Cheers,
There's
man.
all these like traits that I think that you start adding to your character as you progress through your hero journey or whatever your
Yeah,
journey is.
like a MMORPG, like a real life LARP, actually. Yeah, but for real, this is the metaverse that's for keeps. I get you on
Yeah,
that.
yeah. And I think that's why like the modern world's so dangerous, because like a lot of the role models that are sort of like being put out there, like they're just bad role models. I don't know I don't know how else to explain it.
Yeah,
Um,
I get that.
like I saw a photo of that rapper, Kid Cudi, like
Yeah.
dressed in like a female wedding dress.
Really? He used to produce good stuff, man. Fuck,
I
what
know,
happened?
and this is like just weird shit like that. Like that should not be a role model, right? Um,
Okay.
and this is really why I always tell like people on the timeline and private, like
Hmm.
who want to turn their lives around. I tell them, just read better stories.
That's a good one. That's a good one. That's a
Yeah,
very good one.
read
Eddie,
good and
that was
aspirational
that.
stories.
I really relate with that. Maybe that's why a little inner voice in me
Yeah,
said, "Go to your roots and pick up Reacher books again." I'm gonna
there
say
you
that the
go.
new
Yeah,
Reacher books are a little bit disappointment. Well, we've talked about it because the brother took over and those kind of shit.
yeah,
So maybe I'm gonna
yeah,
like reread the old ones, But maybe
yeah,
it was something in me that wanted a little bit of that, like good stories, good characters, and
yeah.
try to forge a new path from 222 and on.
Yeah, it's like if you're being honest with yourself, we all absorb these character traits. Like with you, you're a big fan of Jack Reacher, and I see that in your lifestyle. You know, traveling solo, you know, going on adventures.
Bro,
You know what I mean?
actually, I can like share like one of my biggest like it's one of my biggest pet peeves, indulgence and like vices, but also like my favorite like you know, like everybody loves their coffee in the morning. Some people like their coffee in the morning or a smoke after sex. You know, these little indulgences. You know, what I
Yeah,
have is like to have no shit in my room. So recently I traveled about and people around me want to give me shit, and I'm saying that shit has no fucking purpose. I need a fucking table for my laptop, but I don't need a Christmas critter and a fucking stuffed teddy bear and like and shit like that. Recently, I had some like a new space, so people were giving me plates and dishes and glasses. I'm talking, yo, maybe one guest is gonna come. I need 2 glasses, not 50 glasses.
yeah,
The things you own end up owning you, but
yes,
Jack Reacher is so minimalistic that every time I read it, it's almost like soft core pornography for me. You know, like I kid you not, in the future when you're gonna see me, I'll just be wearing like a fucking suit or something, having my fucking passport and my credit cards, and that's it. And you'll be asking me, yo, bro, where's your luggage? And then I'll be saying shit like, I don't need one. You know, because it has internalized in me. It's not for everybody. Don't get me wrong, but I
yeah,
feel that living from a minimalistic point of view has kept me a little bit sane, to be honest. Like, because the
yeah,
more shit I have, I hate fucking dirt and dust and cleaning. I'm not that guy. I do it. I'm okay in cleanliness and stuff like that, but it's not for me, you know. So
yeah, yeah. I'm the same way, man. I went to buy some clothes the other day, and I bought like a pack. I like these like simple shirts, like black and white.
yeah,
And I bought like a pack of like 5 white t-shirts. And my girl was like, "You're gonna buy the same color?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'm gonna buy the same color. I don't need any other color. Black and white's good for me. You know, I don't want to overthink this shit."
yeah,
Um, and it's the same. It's the same sort of thing. By the way, I just want to go back. Like you said, the word there, internalized. That's the key word. Like
yeah.
when you read all these stories, the character traits you aspire to, like they all get internalized into your psyche.
I really like that about you, Eddie. Always, when we talk, you always tend to fish out or sniper out the word that I took my best actually for to select, because people have spotted in my how do you call it, my vocabulary and my vocal transference that I pause. And the reason why I pause mid sentence, I'm thinking I want to select. I almost see like a drop down list, you know, like you click a little arrow and you see multiple words. I'm like, and that's why it takes like a microsecond. When I was younger, people thought I was a fucking retard, but I was fucking miles ahead away from them. I was like, I want to convey nuance and meaning, you simpleton, you know, like
Yeah,
respect for that. But yeah.
yeah. Yeah, another word I love that you use the word lexicon a lot. I love that word, man, lexicon.
I don't
You're
know
the
where I
only
got
friend
it
I have.
from.
You're the only guy I know who says lexicon and like gets away with it.
But it's important. Lexicon and vocabulary is important for your emotional mastery. It cannot be it cannot be overrated. This one, because let's say you bump your feet on a chair or something. A dumb person or an emotionally blunted noob, the reverse of an emotional sage, would say, "Fuck." Another thing that ruins my whole fucking day. It's always me. They can either say it or think it, but a more what do you call it, low variance, emotionally controlled, well, mindset driven kind of person would say, well, that stung a little bit, let me see if my foot bled. Okay, it
Yeah,
has a little bump, but it's a little bit annoying, but I'll go on with my day. He doesn't even say it, he thinks that in a fucking microsecond. And so the selection of words equates to, how do you call it, an access or a catalyst or a trigger of thoughts, and thoughts are, well, neighbors or similar to feelings and emotions, and that's where it gets fucking messy. Because if you're saying shit, I was there as well, you know, if you're putting shit in your brain like it always happens to me, blah blah blah, if you're saying
yeah,
that to your shit, everybody else out there is saying that shit to you on a day-to-day basis if you're in the wrong circles, you know. And if
yeah,
you add yourself to the list of enemies that you're confronting yourself with, well, you have a fucking problem, in my honest opinion. That's why
yeah,
lexicon is so fucking important. I sniper my friends, everybody, my, you know, and
Yeah. No, I agree with you, man. Like when I first started like learning about, mindset and things like that, um, ever since then, that's like 10, 15 years ago, I've always been like super careful about my word choice
Yeah,
for the exact reasons that you just laid out. Um, and I think it's interesting that certain words have a certain energy to about them.
mhm,
And if it's like a negative energy, um, like I just don't want to associate that word in my mind,
exactly.
you know.
I
Um,
exactly know what you mean. Actually, we should actually
it literally, I know I sound like exaggerating here, but it literally alters your experience of quote unquote reality.
it does, because like Ludwig Wittgenstein, the philosopher, said, the limitation of your mind is the words you have, your vocabulary, and it's literally how you paint reality. Let me give you an example. That Russians do not have a word for green. They have two types of blue, but they do not have the word for green. So the word green does not exist in their reality. They see the color green. You and I, as Western, haha, that's green. But they'll be like, oh, that's somewhere in between that kind of blue and that kind of blue, something like
Hang on,
that.
and if I asked the Russian person to describe to me the color of a tree, they would what would they say?
They would say one of these two Russian words for blue or in between or some shit. You can quote me on this, but point is, I got this from this book. People can read this, how powerful this is. It's from Lisa Feldman Barrett, How Emotions Are Made. There are lots of tribes on the fucking planet who don't have words for certain colors. And
Yeah,
contrastly, on the inverse, there's a tribe in Africa who has 50 million words. Well, this is hyperbole for green. So if you put a wheel, let's say you put a wheel of 10 different shades of green, they say, oh, that is that African word, that's that African word, that's that African word. But we're looking at it, well, that's all green, right? So
yeah,
this begs the question, what is reality? Well, it is not what we
yeah,
think it is, so, and this is
yeah.
how powerful language is, and that's why I
It
like
is very powerful.
polyglotism and learning words and sculpting your reality.
Yeah, yeah. I learned this when I learned Spanish.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
There. Oh, here's a good example.
Yeah.
So in Spanish, there's two different ways to say "I love you."
Okay.
Okay, so there's "te quiero" or "te amo," and depending on the culture within Latin America you go to, they mean different things. So, like in Colombia, "te amo," like you would only say "te amo" to someone you like who you're romantically involved with,
Okay.
or maybe your parents,
Okay.
right? Someone who you got like a very deep emotional connection with. Whereas in other Latin cultures and other countries, they would just say "te quiero" to their husband or their romantic partner, whatever. And so like that's a little example, like where it's like there's two different ways to say I love you, and like the way depending on what each one means depends, on the context of the conversation and the context of the relationship that you have with that person, the history you have that with the person.
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
And like we, in English, it's just I love you. Like you don't really go into that
No.
depth. And I know you speak Dutch. Like I'm sure there's certain words in Dutch that you just cannot say in English
Yeah, it doesn't
or in
translate.
French.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so my point is, when you learn like a second language, as you say, it's like it's almost like you're stepping into a completely different world. Because it's almost like you have to the way you think is different.
Yeah.
And I see that a lot now that I speak both English and Spanish. When the translations don't, there's certain things where like, oh, for example, like my girlfriend doesn't speak English, so like when I watch a movie with her, the Netflix translations are shit, by the way. So they translate something from, so like we're watching an English movie, and it's got the Spanish subtitles, and I'm reading it as well. Sometimes I'll have to pause the movie and be like, oh, you know what? That translation is kind of off. Like I have to explain to her in nuanced Spanish, like what exactly the context of that conversation actually meant.
Yeah.
Because I know that if I don't explain it, it's going to change her experience of the entire movie.
I understand you, man. This explains a lot. I was watching this German thing with a German chick that I knew. We were watching German Netflix, but the subtitles were shit. So she paused it constantly. To be honest, that's not my thing, but I did like the experience that she gave. She said, well, actually, what she means is that word means actually this, and this, and this. was like, oh, okay, that word is wrong then, in my opinion, you know. So it's good.
Yeah.
Good shit. Yeah.
Yeah. But it just goes back to what we were saying like 10 minutes ago about how the power of a word to change the experience.
It does. Yeah.
You
So
know what I mean?
yeah, tying back
Like,
into that, like it's beautiful that you brought up the love example. In Greek, there are like 7 words for love. For example, there's
oh,
agape, philia. Agape is more like the, well, eros is related to the etymological word erotic. That's more lustful love. Agape is more that pure love. Filio is more brotherly love. And it's nice that to bring nuance in that. It's, in my opinion, as a writer, it's pure poetry, you know. A tangent to that, Japanese have 50 words for rain. That is unbelievable. They have shiguri, that means like a summer rain, and then you have autumn drizzle, you know, and you have winter splash.
beautiful. It's
Like
so beautiful.
it's way more colorful, way more impactful. You know, you can pinpoint reality
Yeah.
with that. It's more cool,
Yeah.
you know?
This is the beautiful of literature, man. It's like someone doesn't read literature would be like, rain is rain. It's like, no, the autumn drizzle and like the thunderstorm, it's like
Yeah,
two different, completely different things.
right.
You know,
Because that's why.
it's not just rain. It's not just rain, you idiot. Like
But I really like that, man. So it's good that, yeah, no, it's good that we're talking about this, like, because emotional mastery is needed in, I think, in the upcoming decade, and uh, our linguistics are the foundation of that. So, but coming a little bit back, you were saying like stories are, like you said, almost like a silver bullet, like a hack to go forward with like good energy, you know, to the timeline and everywhere. But I had like a question, like how are we gonna bring, well, more powerful energy or good energy to the timeline in, well, in 2022 and from now on? What do you think we're gonna switch it up? What are you gonna switch up, for example? Not per se New Year's resolutions, but to bring good energy to people in your life and the timeline, and from now on forth, you know, new year, new chances, you know.
Yeah, I think for me, like I definitely want to I know it's a very, very broad sort of New Year's resolution, but I definitely want to write more long form. I've decided as like a personal challenge, I want to write my first fiction story. I think it's probably going to be in the form of a short story, because I've been thinking about this about the power of stories, the power of fiction for a long time now, and I think that because of what I told you before about how, you know, going from I've always been like into stories. I've always felt like it's a huge positive impact on my life. But when I got into like the whole self-improvement space,
Yeah.
I started reading a lot more like just self-improvement, like nonfiction books.
Yeah.
And I did that in an attempt to like improve my life.
Okay.
And in a way, I did improve my life in certain ways, but I think a lot of them were just like, I think the power of like nonfiction and self-improvement in general is that you can fix very specific problems. Like if I need to like fix my habits, you know, I need to read Atomic Habits and things like that. But like in order to improve my, you know, be a wiser person, improve my life as a whole, I think you just need to expose yourself to like better stories. And so I feel like it's my responsibility now to like give back a little bit um to the Twitterverse, and yeah, man, I want to do a bit more storytelling on the timeline. I want to write more authentic sort of content.
Good stuff.
And yeah, dude, you know, I'd like to write a book at some point this year.
Good stuff.
I've got some very, very broad ideas that I've written down, but I don't have a full story planned out yet. But once I do, I'm gonna get to writing it.
Yeah. Would you categorize yourself more as a reader or a writer? Do you label yourself at all or identify with these concepts?
I don't read. I think I'm a bit of both.
Okay.
Yeah, I would say I'm a reader first. I think I'm a student first before I'm a teacher, right?
Yeah.
And it is weird to say I'm a teacher, but I am. But yeah, I would say if anything, like yeah, I'm both a reader and a writer for sure. But I would say I'm a reader first.
Yeah, I think it's one of those quotes that every writer is a reader, but not every reader turns into a writer.
I like that one.
Yeah. So
like
what's
that.
on your reading list right now on your nightstand? What can we expect?
Okay, so I actually brought it with me. So the
Oh
one
yeah.
this is a great book for people
Oh
who
wait, is that oh no, I thought it was gonna be the other one from Herman Hesse.
Siddhartha.
Yeah, Siddhartha.
Siddhartha is a great one too. Dame, this is a great book for like if you're a young man trying to find yourself. This is a fantastic book. It's about a young man who's in his developmental years, and he comes from like this very like traditional Christian family that do-gooders, and he's sort of like he's in his adolescence and he's discovering the dark side of his life. So he like makes friends with the school bully, and he goes and like robs and like steals a bag of apples, and he feels really bad about it. And it's basically just about him like confronting the darkness of his manhood and like trying to find that balance.
Yeah.
So this is a great book I'm reading right now. I brought one fiction and one nonfiction with me. So the other one I found that is I'm really excited to read this one is this book, which is called Understanding Media by Marshall McLuhan. For those of you who don't know, Marshall McLuhan was a Canadian professor who talked a lot about the power of media. And I'm talking about media from like, from way back in the day, from when men started drawing on trees and caves and stuff.
Almost like the origin of mimetics.
Yes. So he talks a lot about how media really changed the way human beings think.
Yes, exactly.
Because really, if you think about pre writing times, there was no way for us to get what's in here onto something that's external.
Yeah.
That's why like Instagram and selfie culture is so fucking dangerous, because for the first time you're like reflecting on yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that person's it's like that person is now looking back at you and like it's starting to fuck with your persona.
Yeah.
And so this book goes into that.
Good stuff.
It's heavy. But
you gave some pretty cool like niche stuff. Yeah, I've never seen those on anywhere. Like good stuff.
Yeah, dude, you gotta. I'm gonna shoot this off to you when I'm done with it. It's fucking.
Yeah. The guys, you fucking like and subscribe this shit. We give away fucking gold here. So yeah, it reminds me of this quote actually. The books you read now are what you will be in 5 years.
Wow, who said that?
I think it was Lee Child again, or I said that in one of my free guides, but I extracted this from one of our conversations. I knew you'd like it because you loved it in the past. But the question, a follow-up question is like, what books have you read 5 years ago? So I know a little bit your age range, but around, pre-30 Eddy, like what books have you read then that made you are who you are right now? And what books are you reading right now? Well, you showed us. Herman Hesse and Understanding Media. What books are you reading right now that will forge you who you are 5 years from now? Can you give us a tidbit of the spectrum of that?
Oh shit. Okay. I'll start with the books that influenced me from 5 years ago. I think for one, definitely, this is more longer than 5 years ago, and I bring this book up all the time, is Blood Meridian by Cormac McCarthy.
I wanted to mention that the whole time.
Yeah, dude, that book, I read that maybe 10 years ago.
Shit.
Yeah, that shit is fucking biblical, man. It really, that book taught me everything I need to know about the power of the primitive nature of man.
You have to read this, people. Like, if you haven't read it, me and Eddy are gonna talk about it at some point, maybe. Yeah.
Maybe we should have the next book review for our next podcast. Like we'll both read Blood Meridian. We'll talk about
that's one of my well, I'll keep it in check. I'll write it down. Ask you in a second, but go on. Yeah.
The other one, and this is more recent. Like I read, I guess a year and a half, 2 years ago, is Musashi, right?
Yeah. Good shit. I like it.
Which as we talked about in our first podcast, I was scared of reading because of just how fucking big it was.
It's thick. If you throw it at somebody, you kill him. Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, I blew right through it.
Because it's a good story, right? It's a good story,
bro. It's an epic adventure. I wish I had read it. I wish I had read it when I was younger, because I think it would have had like because I kind of live that life of being like the lone traveler, in the sense. Didn't kill as many people, but but yeah. In terms of like what I'm reading now, that's gonna have a huge impact on me. Fuck, bro, I don't know.
Well, basically giving you a chance to lifestyle design, 5 years from now, Eddie, you can choose anybody.
Yeah. I guess maybe power versus force. The best novel I read last year was June.
Ooh, I haven't read that one. I'm gonna check that one out.
That's a really good one. It teaches you a lot about power dynamics and politics. But also the power of spirituality, because the main character, Paul, he's a very, very spiritual being. So, that's probably the most impactful novel I read last year.
Good stuff.
But like in terms of like nonfiction, I'd probably have to go with like power versus force in terms of like that really, even though it talked a lot about things that I already knew intuitively, but it just put into words that I couldn't express myself. So
good stuff. Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. So I want to tie in a little bit to Blood Meridian. So I don't know what it was. Maybe it was an old conversation between us or another group chat I was in. But I remembered that there's an audiobook on Audible by Blood Meridian, which is amazing. If for fans who read Blood Meridian already, if you already read Blood Meridian, just download Audible if you have Audible. Check, it's the number one. I forgot who the guy's name is, something Richard, but he just opens the first chapter and he has this gruff voice. It's perfect for that story. So he opens the kid, the child, he has like almost like a whisper, and I'm thinking, fuck. So I was listening like to the 2 first chapters already during like, my downtime. I was thinking, such a
bro.
That book is so impactful because it goes into you, It's like they say, it's like Milton. It's like Milton Lost Paradise. So dense, so poetic, so almost like Dante Alighieri's The Inferno. But and we were talking. Coming back, the reason why I was thinking about Blood Meridian again, we were talking about characters, right? There's no pivotal character than the judge. So
holy shit, man.
He's larger than life. Like he's somebody you can't forget, but he's not per se relatable, but that's a
but you know what what's crazy, man? Like with all the simps in the world these days, we need a judge.
Yo, bro, I'm gonna buy a fucking rifle and put Ego in Arcadia on the side as well.
Yeah, man.
Shit, yeah.
Dude, that's probably one of the most interesting characters I've ever read.
Hey, yo, bro, that's a good one. I'm writing that down. We need the judge.
Yeah. Can you imagine like fucking picking a fight with the judge? Remember the judge imagine having the judge on Twitter, man.
Yeah, they always say that imagine XYZ on Twitter would be dope, like Nietzsche or Seneca or Aurelius on Twitter would be epic, man.
I had an idea a long time ago, bro, about like writing like a detective story, like a Chandler book, and then like building a Twitter account for the main character.
Okay.
And like tweeting up updates about the case he's like investigating and shit. That'd be like a live storytelling sort of thing.
Yeah. Like journalism. Oh, that's really dope.
Yeah.
Bro, that's fucking genius.
Like for example, like you would create a Twitter account for like Jack Reacher. And like you would tweet out as if you were Jack Reacher.
I know. That's epic as fuck. It's so much fun, to be honest, actually.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I have still access to the account, but sometimes I get a little bit like, I have these Twitter breaks, people know that about me, but it's not good for the algorithm, whatever. But I have this I had this alt. I cannot say what it is because maybe one day I'm gonna be that guy again. But it's from a movie. It's just a movie character from one of our favorite movies, and I was tweeting the whole time as if I was him on a certain niche. So I'm not gonna say which niche it was, but let's say copywriting in the voice of, let's say, the judge. And what I did to be completely add-on, every time I tweeted something, I deleted it. So one person would see it, I delete.
Yeah.
To be extra mysterious. So at one point,
Yeah.
I had like a vision that my account would be like lots of followers, but he has
Yeah.
0 tweets. But who is this guy? What is he doing? You know?
Yeah. I mean, we're laughing about it, but it's already really been done. Like, I mean, you followed the G Manifesto before you deleted his account, right? I mean, that's basically what he was. He was just a storyteller.
Yeah.
And it's one of the best.
The other day by you. Yeah.
It's one of the best accounts, and people make fun of G Manifesto tweets, but can you think of a more original brand on Twitter? No. People will remember the G Manifesto 100 years from now. Like that says something, right?
Yeah.
And again, it was a fictional account. It was just a character, but as men, we related to it. You know, the machete, the swooping, the beach. You know what I mean? Like
open ocean swims.
Open ocean swims. Like it speaks to your identity as a man.
Yeah.
And that's really the power of stories, man.
That's dope as fuck.
You know.
Yeah, no, I once read a blog. I can't find it anymore, but I was doing research on G Manifesto, and there was a blog that tried to analyze him and called him surreal art. You know, like when you have in painting, you have Rene Magritte, who has surrealistic art paintings. The G Manifesto was a surrealist, and his tweets were basically. He also put paintings. You know, he was one of the first guys. Yeah, it's so surreal and it's beautiful. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's a real legitimate work of art, you know, the G Manifesto, and homage paid, you know.
Yeah, I saw that tweet the other day.
Fuck, I'm gonna write that down. Maybe I'll still. That's a good. That's one of those like crazy art projects that wouldn't make me any money, but I just want to do anyway for fun.
Yo, bro, it's your idea. Like a dude.
New character Twitter account.
So. Eddy, I see you like taking notes. It brings me to the idea of like journaling. Do you tend to journal in the morning or evening? And what would you categorize your style of journaling? Is it more like a brain dump, or has it stayed the same these last couple of years? Or
it's been the same since I was like a teenager. It's a stream of consciousness. I'm very sporadic with it. I haven't journaled for like over a month, bro. And I think it's because goes back to the Kindle thing. I was trying to do it digitally and it just wasn't the same, man. So I think I'm going to get back into it, but I'm going to get an actual physical journal and handwrite it. Now, in terms of like morning or night, I tend to do it early in the morning.
Yeah, same for me, by the way. Then again, I have fucking journals everywhere, but I'm talking like a time-boxed session can only be in the morning for me. So the reason psychologically or neuroscientifically is because once you wake up, you have the brain theta waves, aka the more malleable part of your brain, but also the more creative part of your brain state. And once you wake, the journaling just comes. Even when I want to do digital, I open something like Evernote or Google Doc or whatever. I'm just went to bed late, woke up early, and I write by accident between 100 and 200 words. You know, not as a journal exercise drill, but as a mind dump to just talk with myself a little bit. And after that, I'm thinking a little bit, and then I go to my first task. Could be anything, you know, like writing emails or whatever. You know.
Right, but you do it manually most of the time, do you?
So these days. Actually, I think I tweeted about this. My go-to ritual with journaling is actually more capturing ideas. So we've talked about the power of pen and paper, right?
I'm on the Glenlivet now, man. I'm with
That's a good one. Is that the Captain Founders Reserve?
Yes.
I like
it's just the American Oak Selection. I don't know.
Oh shit, never had
Founders Reserve. Yeah.
Yeah, I really like that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's a good one. So we've talked about the power of pen and paper, and when you write something down, you internalize it more, you retain it more. And so what I do while I'm tweeting, while I'm talking to you, I have physical journals, you would call them, open, and I write down tidbits. And if I'm not lazy, that's a big caveat, but if it's important, I center them like in a common place. I bring them together on something like Evernote or Asana. You can use anything, you know, Notion. But it's powerful in terms of content creation, especially as content creators such as us. It's very powerful. So when I'm just reading Jack Reacher, when I'm just talking with you, I now have like these little things that I can make emails from. I can make Telegram voice messages, you know. I can do spaces about it. It's infinite possibilities in terms of content creation, as long as if I have pen and paper beside me, you know. So, well, now beside me, I have some questions for you. I took the time to write them all down on a digital format, but more in idea capturing, it's important for me to have that in the physical realm in the form of a journal. And again, sometimes I still have journal sessions in the morning, just with pen and paper, but not so habitually anymore, truth be told.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. Like, I don't think you should force it. You know, I think it should come like naturally, like the desire to journal. Like I started journaling in high school to deal with my insecurities. It was sort of like a form of therapy for me.
Yeah, of course.
And I literally
when
I started when I was 13, man.
Yeah.
And I've been doing it ever since. And so whenever I'm dealing with some sort of like conflict in my life, or I have, you know, something I need clarity on, I will just start journaling about the problem.
Well, have you recently seen these notes from your 13-year-old version? Have you seen them? Like, were they very detailed in terms of
I would have to
emotional
find them, bro.
Huh?
I would have to find them, man. I don't even know if I still have them.
It's interesting, like if you can find it, because let me share a little bit about myself. So I was doing an annual review a little bit of 2021. It's over now, but I have a stack going back all the way 8 years ago. And I thought to myself, once and for all, I'm gonna like cure a little bit the demons. I have certain demons. It's not necessary to go too deep. It's too self-absorbed to talk about it. But point is that there's some things that repeat too often. So I thought it must be in the journal then, you know? And so lo and behold, I find the same things like year after year, like kind of. So I made like from that a little like principles or a resolve. I wrote down like, yo, you're not gonna do this anymore. So every time it happens, I'm thinking, yo, remember what you promised to yourself. I can still fuck up a little bit, but I'm now a little bit now, yo, bro, you're better than this, you know? Be better, brother, you know? Shout out to
SGK.
SGK don't play. But
yeah, I love that guy.
Yeah. My point of it is that these curses can be captured. However, what I wanted to say when I was younger, again, lexicon. So I was so blunted in my phrasings. So it was literally, I was almost reading like a fucking retarded child. You know, they say when you read like old shit of yourself, it's cringe. I don't cringe stylistically because my style has always been quite similar. It has gotten more refined though. It's not as choppy anymore because I've gotten more human, truth be told. But the emotion was not nuanced. It was not rounded. What I mean by that, it was just, yo, this person crossed me. I hate him. Something like that. Very, almost like a high school girl or some shit. I was reading this like, wow, damn, were you feeling that? And I was thinking, but it's night and day versus if I pick up a 2021, I'm writing, fuck, that really hurt me, blah, blah, this. It's more nuanced. It's structured. It's more emotionally savvy, mature, and wise, I would say. And a big part of why people say, well, Fury, you're so wise, blah, blah, is because I'm having these feedback loops on myself over and over and over, just journaling, you know? I kid you not. Well, I'm not going to read that out, but I was seeing this girl last year. And, like, have you read Charles Bukowski's Women? That book?
Of course, yeah.
He just talks about, like, banging all these women, right?
Yeah.
And so I have almost something that's akin to like Swoop Chronicles. So I was reviewing my own shit and I was reading this and I was thinking, wow, this is detailed. If somebody would read this, wow, But my point of it is, bro, it was detailed also in the emotional universe, in the emotional charge and the internal work. I put it out there for myself or maybe my legacy to read it. And it's important for yourself, if you reread stuff in your journal, to not talk like a fucking robot to yourself. you know?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Man, I would love to go back and like check out my high school entries. That would be really interesting.
Interesting
I
as
bet
fuck.
you, I'm sure there'll be a lot of insecurities
So I
being
don't have
sprinkled
high
in.
school ones. It would have been epic to read those ones, man. Holy shit.
Yeah. Did you
No.
start journaling in high school as well?
No, so what my big formative, well, you could call, like the blue pill. I'm not talking about being a blue pill, but when you take the red pill,
Yeah.
you know. But I'm thinking like my blue pill years were really like in university years, and that is after
Yep.
high school, like one or two.
Yep.
Because so for me, it was more. How would you say this? I was already dealing with the same stuff I was dealing in university. There's still
Yep.
some lashback still to this day, but how would I say this? The more the shitstorm basically came over me at university. So
Okay.
I would say that, I don't know, high school protected me in a way because I had more friends or something. But as soon as I
Right.
came into university, a lot of shitstorm came over me. And I think that's when I needed the outlet, as most writers start as an exorcism. They don't start it for the fun. Like Hemingway says, writing is bleeding. And every
Yeah.
true purist knows that. It's not fun
Yeah.
if you're being vulnerable and authentic, and it's bleeding. And I think I needed that in my university years. And
Bro, speaking of Hemingway, I was making a list because I want to do another thread about like novels that men should read.
okay,
And I thought about you because one of my favorite Hemingway books as well is A Movable Feast.
okay. Oh yeah,
Every,
I like it. Yeah.
yeah, no, I know you're a big fan of that book because it's just basically him like boozing in Paris in the 50s.
Yeah, yeah.
But it's a great book.
Yeah.
It's actually my favorite Hemingway. I
It's
haven't read a lot of his most famous works,
Mhm.
like the one about the Spanish Civil War, for example. I've not read.
For Whom the Bell Stole. Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't read that one.
Mhm.
I've only read A Movable Feast,
Mhm.
and that was my first Hemingway. And then I read, I think, a few of his short stories, and that's it. I don't know why. Like, I like his style, but it's not one of my favorite styles. Like his.
So
that
if you want to
short-
read, if you want to read a shorter book of him, that is, well, so to say, non-fiction fiction, people don't know to this day, check out Kilimanjaro and Snow. They say it's beautiful. Haven't read that one personally, but you
Okay.
should check out that one. But so coming back to A Movable Feast, so
Yeah.
to put out there, I read his classics. The Sun Also Rises. It's his first novel. It's also called Siesta or Fiesta. The Old Man and the Sea, which won him the prize.
Yeah.
Not the Pulitzer Prize, the other fuck. It won him that
Nobel
big prize.
Nobel Peace Prize, Nobel Literature.
Yeah, it was one of the big actually books that led him to the Nobel Literature Prize. Then I read For Whom the Bell Stole, but my favorite one is Farewell to Arms. So I can tie that actually into what we're talking about, because the main couple, the love couple, aka Hemingway, he writes about himself basically. He was a war ambulance driver, and the woman, if you Eddie, you would love it because the dialogue is just splendid. It's one of the realest dialogues I ever read. And
Sun Also Rises.
no, Farewell to Arms.
Farewell to Arms.
So actually, well, I know some young guys are listening to this. Maybe for guys who are interested in game, I'm not gonna say that the guy has good game in the dialogues or whatever, but it's the realest dialogue you'll ever read between two lovers, because they are lovers. And any guy who's interested in text game or whatever, you should check this out. It's so, it feels like it's almost too intimate, like reading a love story, and it feels real because, well, he wrote it semi-autobiography about one of his wives, but it's good. And I'm not gonna spoil the ending for people who haven't read it, but it's a true tragedy love story. It's good, and typical Hemingway style. It's one of the best books that I read, truth be told. But the most impactful, while coming back, you're right, is The Movable Feast. I was talking yesterday actually with a client of mine about it. Is that how do I phrase it in one sentence? It's a slice of life of Hemingway in Paris.
Yeah.
Who is Hemingway? Why is he a legend? It started to trigger all these questions in my head, made me ponder. Why do we read about Hemingway?
I thought the contrast between him and Fitzgerald was very interesting in that book because Fitzgerald is basically like a bit of a simp, isn't he? Like,
Yeah.
compared to Hemingway.
Yeah. It's because of Zelda, true. Yeah, it's because of him,
Zelda.
but Zelda ruined him a little bit.
Yeah, Zelda was the
Zelda was one of the first toddies ever.
First what?
Toddies, you know, like those.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say she was a hoe, but she was more toddy, I would say.
Yeah, for sure, for that era.
For that
Have you
era,
seen that Woody Allen movie about what the fuck is it called? It's a great movie.
With all these
Woody
characters,
Allen,
you mean?
and he meets Hemingway.
Yeah. I think
what's it called? What's the movie called?
Fuck. I'll look it up while we keep talking, but I think I know what you mean.
It's Owen Wilson, like he's in Paris and he's like married to this
Midnight in Paris. That's a good movie.
Yeah, fucking great movie.
I love that movie.
I love that movie too.
I've only watched it once, but I see this is what we mean about characters. That's so powerful.
Yeah. And he hangs out with Hemingway and Zelda and Fitzgerald. Yeah, it's a really well done movie.
Actually, what's really funny, so this is how powerful characters are. That I don't know if it was from that movie or another movie, but a line of Hemingway is get in the ring and see what you're made of. I always say that in a tweet sometimes. When somebody says something, I just say, get in the ring and see what you're made of. You know, it's the perfect answer to everything. You know, it's like, throw it out.
Yeah. That's your response for all the haters in the comments. Get in the ring and see what you're made of.
Yeah. What's your body of work? No, but coming back, like, about those. Oh, yeah. So it makes me ponder, what is the definition of a legend? Why are we reading Hemingway? Why are we reading Fitzgerald? And what is the definition of the Soaring 20s? And like Thomas Bevan likes to coin, we are now in the Soaring 20s.
Yeah, I love that.
Who are so back then, my bad, it was the Roaring 20s, but he coined something that's called the Soaring 20s. So I'm thinking like I really like that of Thomas Bevan. He has high aspirations as a writer. He says, it's up for grabs, Fury. It could be you, it could be me. Who's gonna be this iconoclastic novelist that people are gonna read about 100 years from now? Like you said, like with G Manifesto, he's gonna stand the test of time, you know? Okay, but
the most
the
most recent example I can think of is probably Murakami. I can't think of a more recent novelist who's like going to stand the test of time.
Yeah, I was reading Murakami. I told you about it, Norwegian Wood. I'm reading that. It's pretty interesting.
What did you think of the Norwegian Wood, by the way?
It's not done. I'm at like a third of it, and it kind of picks up. So it started kind of slow, and Murakami has it. Have you checked out his short story about men without women? It's called.
Are you sure it's not Hemingway?
No, that's Murakami, Men Without Women. And it's about basically bachelors without women, but I don't know how Murakami does it, because he doesn't seem like a player, but he writes women really well. He writes them really well.
He does write women really well.
It's uncanny.
I don't know how to describe Murakami to people. I discovered Murakami in my early 20s. I read Norwegian Wood. And I ended up reading like 5 more books, like one after another, like you with Lee Child.
Yeah. And, same with Murakami, by the way. I started. I didn't tell anybody because it was just a passion project of myself. I saw the latest Murakami was out of 2020. It was his latest short story, and it had just a sexy cover, you know. But I remembered Murakami. I always wanted to read it. It's called First Person Singular. I just ordered it on Amazon straight away. And it was so mysterious. He has that Kafka-esque vibe to his stories. It's called Magic Realism for those literary buffs tuning in. And I really like the puzzles of his short story. Yeah. Because Japanese like hardcore detective stories. So, also for the hardcore detective puzzle freaks, there's a genre in Japanese that's called like old school hardcore murder mystery detective. They have insane detective fiction. It's cool as fuck. The
You gotta
puzzles.
send me some recommendations.
Yeah, I'll send you some. Like it's typical Japanese style. It's made not for characters, but for puzzles, you know? This guy kills the
Yeah.
guy, how did he do it and stuff like that? It's cool as shit. But anyway,
Yeah.
Murakami brings a little bit of that mysterious vibe of that to the literary
Yeah.
world with some characters. And I just cranked out like stories like just like you, man. But why did you keep reading? Because truth be told, sometimes I took a pause. It's not that exciting, you know?
I don't know, man. I really don't know. Like I read Norwegian Wood, and Norwegian Wood really captured. It really captured like how I felt as a young man in university, and so it really resonated with me. And I don't know. Like I feel that every 5-10 years of my life, there's an author that like that really captures my attention.
That's
So
good.
like I said, when I was younger, it was Ellroy,
Mhm.
and then Chandler,
Mhm.
and then Murakami was like my early 20s author, and then in my mid to late 20s, that's when I found Cormac McCarthy, who's probably my favorite author of all time. But Murakami
Have you read
was
those other
really.
books of McCarthy, actually?
I've read most of them. So I've read The Road.
Mhm.
I've read No Country for Old Men. I've read Blood Meridian, and I've read the entire Border trilogy, which is The Crossing, All the Pretty Horses,
Epic.
and I can't remember the other one, what the other one's called. But yeah, I've read pretty much all his books. Murakami is the same way. Like, I wouldn't say Norwegian was my favorite. It was my first one, but my favorite one, there's a book called Dance, Dance, Dance.
You told me about it, yeah.
That's kind of like a noir sort of detective book. And then he's got another one called, I think it's called Hard Boiled Wonderland and the End of the World, something like that.
Yeah.
That's really good. And I've read Kafka on the Shore. I've also read, he's got a really short book, it's called something Midnight or something like that. But that's it. Like, yeah, I've read about 4 or 5 of his books. Phenomenal. He's got a bizarre story. Do you know his background?
Well, I know the story how he got into writing. It's because his mom was an English teacher or something, but he was working in a jazz store, selling records or something. And one day he was at a baseball stadium and he had the idea that he could be a writer.
Yeah, what the fuck? He was at a baseball game and he was like, fuck it, I'm gonna be a novelist.
Yeah.
All right.
No, but I think he has the power that most creatives have. It's called in psychology lateral thinking.
Yeah.
So I think through a way of incubation, like they call it in psychology, a way of synthesis.
What I understood with him is like he had the typical Japanese upbringing where like his parents wanted him to get like a corporate job and like at like Mitsubishi or whatever. Then he dropped out and opened up a jazz bar.
Yeah. Oh, jazz bar I meant, not jazz records. Yeah.
Yeah. Then he went.
I really like his music choice though. He's a very pendant man.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah. Respect for that.
Yeah, and then he went. Yeah, as you said, he went to the baseball game and was like, "Fuck, I'm gonna be a novelist." Cool. And he's one of those like fucking like real writers. Like he wakes up at like 4 or 5 a.m.
Yeah, he's hardcore, man.
He's a marathon runner, so he
Yes.
goes for a run, and then he basically sits at his typewriter for like 8 hours a day and just
hardcore,
like hardcore writer.
I wonder, yo, Eddie, what could we write if we would do the same? What would we write? Like, I'm talking, I'm just for like an exercise game. No Twitter, no email list, no products, just this routine. What would we write? I don't know.
Yeah. I'd probably end up writing like stories,
I was inspired by something like Blood Meridian, something so biblical, so atavistically captivating, like it's insane.
But yeah, I'm glad you're reading Norwegian Wood, man. Like, definitely hit me up when you're done with it so we can talk about it. It's been a while.
Tying back now is the perfect segue back into it. So I found in our conversation that we're gonna start a book club, like a school.
Yeah.
So maybe I could like ping you on the one-off, like just it doesn't have to be this extensive as this conversation that we're having, but just a one-off, like Blood Meridian. Yo, bro, I compiled some notes. Let's go for Blood Meridian. Let's go for Norwegian Wood. And I think, truth be told, a certain part of our audience would really appreciate it, because it isn't there in the space if you think about it. So guys, either, like in the comments, whatever, or just in tweet, it's not there, right?
We should put it out there, man. Like I would love to do something like that. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Like
that's why I started the book club in my Telegram. I put you in there.
Yeah, exactly. So fuck it, let's do it, man. Like I want to do both a book club and a movie club. I have this dream.
Fuck.
I have this dream theory when I'm like old and shit. I want to have like a movie club where I just like invite a bunch of Twitter bros and like come over and like we'll have a whiskey and like
movie club. That's next. And
we watch a movie and then we just fucking drink whiskey and talk about it.
That's like epiphany upon epiphany. We should definitely do like what do you want to do then? Like old school movies or
anything. I think we should do everything.
Okay.
I would love to do both a blend of like old and modern movies.
But that gives me that's really interesting, because that's give me a sense. So a little bit transparency here for people. I've watched more than 1,293 plus movies in my life, and but it felt like, how do you call it? Not a chore, but we're in the business of making money. We're from fucking money Twitter, and you cannot watch movies, but let's say we have movie club, Eddy, I would be motivated to watch a movie, would be dope.
Yeah, definitely. I would be down for that, man. It'd be easy, man. We just have to pick a movie and then like watch it and talk about it.
What's the latest movie you saw? Like one of the latest movies. I'm talking like also, but yeah, okay. What's the latest movie you saw? But could be a new movie or.
What did I watch recently? That was good.
Did you watch the new James Bond?
Yeah.
We could talk about that one.
Have you seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. No spoilers for the audience. We have to make a new one. Like.
Yeah. Okay. We can talk about that one.
So actually, so Eddy, so I can now reveal to the audience. I'm making a huge blog post about No Time to Die, but also my affinity for James Bond, and we can also talk about the stupid feminist shit that they put in, and also who's going to be the next Bond. We can this podcast could be extensive, actually. Like
yeah, definitely. We could. Oh man, I'm happy to come on and talk about James Bond again. I'll be honest with you. So, unfortunately, I grew up in the time. The James Bond of my era was Pierce Brosnan.
Okay, same for me. Same for me as well. Yeah.
And Pierce Brosnan, I thought was an excellent Bond, but unfortunately, the movies weren't that good.
I've heard this by one of the most, how do you say, like one of the most coolest guys that I know. He actually said that his favorite Bond was Pierce Brosnan as well.
Yeah, but the movies suck.
The movies were shit, but if you think about, let's put Pierce Brosnan into. Oh, actually, a good so we should actually save this for like Bond podcast, but we can talk about. So the beginning of Die Another Day is actually fucking hard boiled and fucking cool as fuck if you think about it, because he was captured by North Korea and he gets tortured and shit like that. It's a very cool beginning of a movie, actually, if you think about it. But it takes off and explodes and implodes on itself. But,
So. So unfortunately, I like the character of James Bond, and I like everyone else, I thought Sean Connery was the best one, but it just wasn't a big part of my life.
Yeah.
Like I never saw him as like the sort of like the alpha male that I aspired to be. Like for me, that was more like Indiana Jones, But again, that's just because like Pierce Brosnan was the Bond, and like his movies just weren't that good. Daniel Craig was decent. I liked Casino Royale.
Richard.
And I thought it was pretty good, but like again, like I've never been like a massive fan of James Bond.
For people listening, by the way, I should bring on one of the big OGs from Money Twitter, who loves Casino Royale, Mike Medici. I'm gonna bring him on just for you guys to just talk about Casino Royale.
Yeah, Casino Royale is cool. What's the other one that I really liked about? I think Skyfall was really good.
It's dope, yeah.
Spectre was not great, but the aesthetics were amazing.
It's insane,
aesthetically, right? Aesthetically was fantastic.
But what I love from Skyfall, Spectre and No Time to Die, they did their best with the camera directive work. You know,
Yeah.
you know, you can say this and that about screenplay technicality wise, but visually they did their best. You know,
Yeah.
it's nice to see that. I like that. So
Yeah.
I think I'm a little bit biased in terms of that. You know, people can say Sean Connery and stuff like that, but the Daniel Craig movies, they brought some visual eye candy. You know, it made me
Yeah,
want
for
to go to
sure.
those places as like me as a traveler. I would think like,
Yeah.
fuck, I want to be there. You know.
I also appreciated how they tried to create a more serious version of Bond with
Yeah,
Craig.
yeah,
Because if you understand, if you look at the history of James Bond, it was
yeah.
never a serious movie. It was always just like, it was kind of silly, to be honest with you.
They say A View to a Kill and the Roger Moore movies were fucking comedy.
Yeah, I mean, like if you look at, for example, From Russia with Love, like it's just kind of silly. And I don't mean that like it's a bad way. It's just it's supposed to be like silly fun. That's supposed to be James Bond.
Yeah.
Whereas with Craig, they tried to do like the serious sort of like drama version of Bond, and I think I think it's good they experiment with that. I think that's not that added something to the James Bond franchise.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But like I said, it's just James Bond as a character was just never something that was just never a character that I like fully
I understand.
to.
I've
Yeah.
actually found something in my gold vault here that we should
Yeah.
talk about in Movie Club. Actually, I found what you know who we should talk about next time, really? Snake Plissken.
Oh shit.
So for most of people who are a little bit new to Eddy's account, he used to have like Snake Plissken as his AV or profile photo. You know, why do you like Snake Plissken?
Bro, I was thinking about going back to him for a month.
Yeah.
Going back to
Tell us
Snake
about
Plissken.
your love for Snake Plissken a little bit before we go into the full podcast about Escape. I'm gonna rewatch those movies just for the sake of it. You know, like
yeah, I'm gonna give some respect to my man Rogue Wealth. So I got on Twitter and Rogue used the AV of I don't know the name, I can't remember the name of the actor.
Ian McShane.
Ian McShane. And I was like, all right, I want a character like that allows me to like tweet in a voice that inspires me to tweet. And I was like, what's the most alpha like masculine character I can think of? And I've always been a massive not just Escape from New York, but like John Carpenter, who's the director. I was always a John Carpenter fan. And I don't know, bro. Like Escape from New York is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, it's a good movie.
And Kurt Russell's probably one of my favorite actors of all time. Like Big Trouble in Little China. That's one of my seriously one of the best movies I've ever seen in my childhood. And yeah, dude, I just thought Snake Plissken was a badass fucking character. And the eye patch, the smoking, like the dude's just badass, man.
Yeah, but so we definitely.
And I wanted to pick a character theory that's well known, but like pretty like it wouldn't be as well known amongst younger audiences.
That's interesting, actually.
That's why I went with Snake.
Because it shows your maturity, your personality.
Yes. Yeah, exactly.
Because
I could have gone with Bond, but then like Bond is like it's like come on, like if you're gonna pick an alpha male character that's popular, everyone's gonna go with Bond.
Because if I think about it, I see a lot of fucking copycat.
Or Don Draper from Mad Men. Like that's the other one that's really popular right now.
Run of the mill accounts that put Don Draper. They put Sean Connery a lot. You know that he's leaning on his Aston Martin DB5.
Yes.
I see so many guys that. Don't get me wrong. I like that shot. I like that car. I like Sean Connery. I see that, and I see. I think it's mostly now because of Joe Lampton. A lot of Scarface. You know.
Yeah. Or a Greek fucking statue.
Or a Greek fucking statue. Or a fucking lion.
A fucking lion.
Fuck. Damn.
So that's why I want, and I was like, all right, I'm Asian. I can't go Bruce Lee because that's like too obvious. Damn. So it's like no Bruce Lee. So
but
and I was like, all right, what's a cool badass character that's kind of like that shows I'm a little bit more cultured? And I was like, fucking Snake Plissken's my boy.
That's cool, man. I'm checking out these John Carpenter movies. What do you like from John Carpenter, actually? Let me see.
All right, so you gotta watch. There's a movie called The Thing, The Thing
Oh,
is one of the
bro,
best
he
movies
he
I've ever
did he
seen.
made the first assault on Precinct 13.
Yes, that is a great movie,
I only saw the remake of that.
bro. You got watch the original. Watch the
If I
original.
can
It's not
find it,
canon.
if I can find it.
So The Thing,
Mhm.
you have to watch a movie called They Live.
I see it.
They Live. Please watch They Live, and we'll fucking podcast about it. It is so fucking. Everyone talks about The Matrix and whatever.
Yeah.
Watch They Live.
Shit,
They
this,
Live.
it's an interesting movie I see here. John Carpenter
Yeah.
must have been like a really creative guy.
Yeah, he's one of like the godfathers of independent cinema.
Damn, good shit.
Like he scored his own movies, for example. He shot a lot of these movies on very low budget.
Yeah.
But bro, if I had to give you two movies to watch, They Live,
Mhm.
The Thing. You
Yeah.
watch those two movies, and
Maybe you should do like a John Carpenter special then or something.
I might
No,
just
but
do a fucking podcast where like we just talk about books and movies, and that's all we do.
Yeah, no, but this is like impromptu for the audience listening because we've been talking a lot about it, but yeah, there's definitely the love for it, you know. So we should definitely do it. Like every time we feel there's something that we've both consumed or think the other should check, we should check it out, and then you know, yeah.
Yeah, just like we did with Musashi, man.
Oh yeah, but that one isn't done yet technically, right?
Oh shit, we gotta do part two, don't we?
Yeah.
But I gotta read some summaries or something about the second part.
Yeah,
It's
because that shit
epic.
is dense. Yeah,
Yeah.
but yeah, that was one of the big pivotal things that I had here, like when we starting the book club. Oh, I don't know if you can tell us about your next story for Money Twitter. You hinted at it. Is it in the wraps, or can you share us a little bit what you shared to me in private? Or
Oh, you mean the book? My
you
fiction
want to
book?
give it away, or like just talk a little bit around it. Don't give it away yet.
So I had this
This is like
idea
your
of like
chance.
I wanted to sort of encompass all the lessons that we've learned about through being on Twitter and being in the self-improvement game. And I wanted to conceptualize all the key lessons into some sort of fictional story. And that's really it, man. And I've been like meditating on this for like a month or so. I do have a sort of like very, very loose story planned out. And I even have like a working title that I might share with you in private.
Sure.
But I think it's a cool idea, the idea that I have.
Yeah, that was the promotional part of the podcast, you know.
Yeah, so I didn't go all in on it because I'm still not like 100% sure on it. But I'll share with you in private the idea I have so far, and let me know what you think.
Good shit. So I actually have one of the more, how do you say it, like more mature, intimate questions. It's like we're all headed for more older seasons of our life, you know. And I know you, like I know you a little bit personally. I know when your birthday is, and I also know a little bit your age, you know. But I wanted to ask, like, how has your age, as you push towards a certain number, influenced your energy levels throughout the day, your input selection, your output that you can crank out, and what do you choose to select on in your life, given, how do you say, given your newfound wisdom and selective energy? Because I've talked to a little bit older guys as well, and yeah, just basically give us younger guys the good stuff, what you feel that we can learn from.
Okay, so I have a friend who's like 10 years older than me, and I remember when I was in my late 20s and we met, he was in his late 30s. He's now in his late 40s. When we first met, I was like, and we had a conversation. I asked him about, what's it like when you're like in your late 30s, which is where I'm at now. And he said, it's pretty much the same, but you just stop giving a fuck about a lot of things.
Yeah.
And that would be my answer. Like, you just stop giving a fuck about a lot of things. Like, I'm in several groups with like a bunch of Twitter guys, and obviously I'm going to name them. and they're great guys, really successful, really intelligent. They make a fuckload of money. They shag a lot of beautiful women.
Yeah.
They have their life together.
They're
But
great,
there's
right?
just
I know what
something
you mean.
about, but there's a certain level of like chest thumping amongst them that's just like, that's very, very like what I used to do when I was that age.
Yeah.
And I just wouldn't, I just stopped. You just stopped. I think like one thing for me is like, I just stopped giving a fuck about what people think of me
Hmm.
more when I get older. Now, I used to have like these like really big ambitious goals, like how much money I want to make and stuff.
Sure.
My goal now like is to like live a calm and content life
Yeah.
on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah.
And I know that sounds like really broad and generic, but like
Okay.
that's really what I aim for on a day-to-day basis. I also think that another big lesson I've learned for the younger guys is 99.99% of the worst case scenarios that you feel that's causing you anxiety
Okay.
will never ever happen.
Beautiful. Hmm.
Like, so I'm a lot more calm now. I used to like live in a state of like worry and anxiety.
I feel that actually. When I can, well, the audience didn't see that, but when I opened the podcast, I I would say as a man who's on the path, and I feel that you're more on the path versus one of the fucking NPCs I meet or even my old friends. Bless them. But I spoke with you and I felt the quote unquote significant change since the last time I spoke to you on call was actually the last podcast we did. While we were talking, I dug it up. Is your podcast with me was, well, damn, it was a long time ago actually. You know, it was like
The Musashi one?
the Musashi. It's a long time ago when we did it, man. It's, oh, bro, 18 days, 18 December 2020. Damn.
Fuck, really? I thought it was 2021.
So that's a full year plus a couple months. But my point
Damn,
is,
I swear to God that was 2021, dude.
yeah, but I feel exponentially you and I have gotten, well, I saw it, the synergy, you know, I felt this. I was so it's a little bit my, how do you call it, my calculation machine in my brain. I was expecting a certain Eddy, but when I saw you, I was like, damn, he's chill as fuck, you know. It's a good, no, but it's a good sign. So you basically shoved my image a little bit away. I was like, oh, that's interesting, and it shows what you just said, man. Yeah.
Yeah, man. So I would just say the biggest thing is I'm just a lot more calm now because I don't know if it's like I'm more confident now, but I'm way less anxious. I'm way less worried because I just trust. I just have faith that like God's gonna deliver and like everything's gonna be okay.
Good shit.
As long as I show up and do my thing, like it's gonna work out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, but for example, when I first got into online business, you know, I used to have a 9 to 5. I used to have a 9 to 5 that paid me a lot of money. And the thing about 9 to 5 is, and the thing about having a 9 to 5 is like, unless you're at absolutely dog shit at your job, you're never gonna lose that paycheck.
Yeah.
You've always got the back of your mind that comfort zone. But when you work for yourself, there's always that little bit of insecurity of like, oh, when's the next paycheck gonna come?
Yeah. I got you.
You have to make it happen.
Yeah.
And I think I let that linger on for way too long.
Mm-hmm.
And now, and then I was telling my girl the other day, and then I was like, you know what? I've been at this thing for like 5 years. Like, I've got this. You know what I mean? And that's how confidence is developed. It's just you have to like put in the work and you have to put in the reps.
Respect,
and
man.
Eventually, you get to a point where it's like, you know what? I've been doing this for several years. Like, I'm okay. You
know
what I mean? I don't have to worry about money. I don't have to worry about my next project. Like, I know it's going to come. So I think that's the biggest change in my like mid-30s is just going from that state of like insecurity and anxiety to like a state of like, I've got this. I'm okay. Not a state of like I'm fucking the king, but like just a state of like, hey, it's gonna work out. I'm good. I'm good.
That's good. It's good to hear that actually. It's good to hear from you that personally. And also I've been talking to like Niels from Twitter as well. He's a little bit more seasoned man, has gone through some personal experiences that made him mature faster and faster. And he said the same thing actually. And for people that know, he's a painter. You've seen him on Twitter. and he has this calm over him. It doesn't mean that he has it all figured out, but he said, paraphrasing what you just said a little bit in his own words, with his own story and his own come off. And it's cool to see that as somebody who's a little bit younger than you guys, and also for the more younger guys, especially those young guys who are stressing the fuck out. Like, I know them because I used to be one of them. Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. There's a reason why my name is The Fury. Like, I wake up still to this day, like with I have that. It's part of my personality. But however, I say these things that Eddy says to himself as well. It's good shit. I saw that tweet of yours. I think it was today. Like, don't let 5 seconds or 5 minutes of anxiety ruin your whole fucking day. I felt that. It's like you feel it and you just like, I don't know, you take a walk, maybe it kills off 30 minutes or something, but then you come back, it's fucking over. It's not gonna be like a fucking temper tantrum for like fucking months or some shit. This is what I meant.
Oh, one more thing before I forget, Fury. The other huge lesson I've learned at my age is learning to trust my intuition again.
Okay.
I think as children, you come to this world naturally trusting your instinct because that's all you've got.
Yeah.
And then as you go through school, as you go through the education system, as you sort of integrate with society, you're sort of like people try and like put you into this box.
Yeah, I hate that shit.
And like they impose rules and fucking ways of thinking on you. Like, you have to take the vaccine. You have to fucking pay your taxes. you have to follow the law. You have to listen to the rules and blah 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 blah.
Such a fucking buzzkill, right? Yeah.
And like, it's so like I feel this year 2022 is like, it's kind of like I feel so content, so calm, but like I think it's like because I trust my intuition a lot more.
Okay. Good shit.
And I'm going back to my old ways, man. Like, for example, one thing is I'm gonna do is like read more, like just ditch the self-improvement book. I'm only gonna read 1 or 2 self-improvement books this year if I have to, for any specific skill sets I need to pick up on.
But that's different.
I'm going to read whatever book I'm naturally curious about. Then that's it.
I get you on that, because there's a difference in like buying a course, let's say for a skill. Let's say you need to get better at your copywriting, your media buy, I don't know, whatever. Of course. Yeah. Just buy that shit, consume it, apply that shit, and just buy the next one, whatever. But it's not worth it to read 50 sort of arts of not giving a fuck,
Yeah, exactly right. Like, read, it's not about fiction or nonfiction. Read the book that you want to read. Like, if you see a book that's not popular and it just calls your attention, go fucking read it, man.
Yo, bro. So maybe
trust your instinct.
Yeah, that's good. It's good to hear that from somebody like you. That's why I asked you that question, actually. So, but actually, it made me realize what you just said now. Like you said, be more calm and content, right? So, but as somebody who struggles a little bit with that as well, like, let me ask you then, how do I say this? How do you tiptoe on that thin thread of, how do I say this? Maintaining the balance of shooting for the moon, because you're still a man. You're not, I don't see you're overtly competitive, because you're just like kind of subtweeted those guys a little bit, what you just said, a little bit chest thumping. You're not like that, I know that, but you're still competitive. Like, how do you balance the competitive archetypical male side of you, the warrior side of you that wants to, I'm not saying you want to be a legend, like maybe I'm putting words in your mouth, but point is, every man wants to have like fucking moonshots, but how do you balance that side of yourself versus staying chill and content with what you have and your intentions and the wisdom that you've gained? How do you have like rituals for that, things you say to yourself? Well, we already heard kind of like aphorisms you were saying to yourself, but
so it's a constant struggle for me. The way I've managed it is by just removing the pressure for myself. So like I tend to usually have like one big goal every 6 months now.
Got you.
Whereas it used to be like I used to have like 5 to 10 big goals a year.
I got you.
Now it's like, all right, you know what? I'm just gonna work on this one thing for the next 3 to 6 months.
Yeah.
So like right now for me, I only really have two goals, and that's like for this year, in terms of my business, I really want to focus on email. So the next 6 months is going to be really focusing on building my email list and like writing great emails. That's it.
Yeah.
And then in terms of my creative goal is to, as you know, like start working on my book and start like planning it out and start writing it. And that's it, dude. That's it. Two goals. That's it.
I feel you. Less is more then. Less is more.
Yeah, exactly. And beyond that, I really don't know. Like it's better to have. It's better just to have one North Star, right?
Yeah, I feel you on that.
Whereas like before, I would just have like, I would like have like a goal. Then I would go on Twitter and I would see all these guys crushing it. And I'd be like, fuck, I need to like do more. And then I would add more to my plate. And then because I have too much on my plate, I'm not making progress in any of them. And then I feel bad. And that causes like this negative loop of like, oh, I'm taking on too much. I'm not achieving anything. I'm a loser. Like, what's wrong with me?
I feel you. I feel you. I feel you on that. Yeah, because if people are going to be transparent, well, let's say 80% of guys have that, especially if you're on money Twitter and if you're on among savages, you know, respect to them. Like, you know, it's a savage world, but it brings me back. Actually, I can be transparent about that. Actually, I made the switch like a couple months ago. Transparency, like I've been working with some clients, you know, it's because I've been focusing, like you said as well, been emailing more, those kind of stuff. I just thought, you know what, let me just try this as like a mini business model for a couple months, see how that flies. And ushering in that Japanese concept, the ikigai. What I really like about coaching for me, the ikigai is basically 4 Venn diagrams. It says, what are you good at? What are you passionate about? What can you get paid for? And what does it for the world? What good for the world does it does? And for me, coaching actually hits a nice little sweet spot in the center of all these 4 things. So when I'm like coaching, you know, my clients, I get paid for it. I'm helping the world on a microcosm, just helping, you know, one other dude, you know.
Yep.
And I would say I'm pretty good at it, you know, because I'm quite conversational, I'm introspective, I have all these like facets, you know, and so it helps me centered and stay true to a certain North Star. I still have those things that we talked about, like this over comparison porn. Basically, it's a form of porn if you think about it, you know. You know, like bad toxicity porn that no man listening to this podcast should watch porn, but over comparison porn is a poison as well. We should get rid of a little bit. Comparison is good. It's good for the healthy male blood sport, you know, but to set potentiality, especially if you've been programmed by fucking Matrix to think you're only deserving of X amount of money. No, bitch, you can deserve, you know, how good you are, how worthy you are, that amount of money you can make, you know. But other than that, over comparison, it is a killer for some people, you know. That's why it was necessary to address this issue, you know.
And it's hard on Twitter because like you on Twitter, you scroll the timelines, like oh, this guy just made $50,000 in a month. He's like 21, you know.
Didn't Cold Email Wizard make that in a day or something?
Probably. That guy's a fucking G.
He's a
but
G,
that's what I mean. Like you know, there's things like that, and I always tell myself, you shouldn't compare yourself to those. You shouldn't compare yourself to those, but it's hard, right?
Yeah.
And so yeah, I've learned to be a lot more calm and content with my life.
Yeah.
Gratitude's been very useful for me, like just, you know, being more grateful for like the little things I have in my life. And
yeah, I've been doing that as well. I think it was Leon Castillo from selfmaster.net. This is a soft plug, but no, but he was talking about how science talks about how gratitude is one of the biggest emotions that can leverage you to get into a state of well-being really fast. If you just on a day-to-day basis just make a drop-down list of the things you're grateful for, or just bank it in your Google Docs, you know, your digital commonplace, and just look at what you're grateful for. Just it really centers you and makes you feel a little bit not so fucking chaotic and explosive to fucking run around like a fucking chicken without a head, you know.
Yeah, exactly. I think it eats up a lot of younger guys, especially. I think.
Yeah, yeah, it does. Tying into that, like when we were talking about how you got a little bit more mature, more wisdom. I
Yeah.
wanted to share with the listeners that I have this drill that I did. Sometimes I do it. So it's a little bit personal. So I have these like trance-like moments that came to me more, how do you say, intuitively. Like that's why some people say I'm more spiritually inclined. When people drop psychedelics, they get visions and shit like that.
Yes. Yep.
Disclaimer: I've never done psychedelics, but I would just go on a fucking walk, and it's raining, and I'm smoking, and then so almost like a weird vision comes to me. It could also be just intuition actually speaking to me, like, but it comes in a very visual format. I call it like a neurological landscape. I got this from like a book or something, but I see then a very calming energy washes over me when I see an older version of myself. And well, not to go into details about who I am and where I'm in my life for me, but as a listener, if somebody's listening and tying into what you said, what can be really potent is that as a drill, when you're doing your meditative work, your breath work, or just chilling the fuck out with your girl, just staring into the abyss, just imagine yourself, such as Eddy, now a little bit further, a little bit more wiser, and especially if you're a younger man, envision yourself at 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old, and go even further. I'm talking like a fucking old man who's done it. He's still alive. He's sitting on his fucking porch, like his white fence, picket fence is there. He has his kids, if that's your desire, and he's just sitting there, but he's chill as fuck because he's done it. Imagine that guy, and then I think it was Justin C. Scott who taught me that. Imagine that avatar almost talking to yourself, and it's an insane, how do you call this, like calm, I can only call it that, like this tranquility that gets transferred when you do this. I advise people to do something like this, and you even might get even glimpses of like future shit that you're supposed to do.
Crazy.
Yeah,
I love it.
good shit, man. Yeah, so
Oh man, it
this
was
was
a,
this was a long haul, bro. Like
I went through, bro. I went through 3 whiskeys talking to you. I went through three
wait,
different types of
not three
whiskeys.
whole bottles, right, bro?
No. I had like 3 whiskeys
I got
that
it.
like that were down to like the last inch,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and I was like,
So
I'm gonna finish all 3 on this podcast.
So we've talked a lot. Actually, look, Eddy. I I can come clean now. Actually, for people listening, I've seen a lot of fucking bad podcasts. I'm not gonna name names, obviously, but they bring on these premium cameos, these fucking
Yeah,
baller guys.
yeah,
Ask the question, but 80% of the time they talk through the fucking guest. I'm not gonna name names, but I had an
yeah.
intention to bring to the fucking podcast space to bring cool people like Eddy. I prepared questions, what I normally don't do, and I asked them all. I asked them all. So I just want to say, like, given the themes and motifs that we've talked about, is there anything that you want to share or ask me? Because I was a little bit on the lead with asking questions, but the floor is yours, Eddy. Like, go ahead.
um, bro, like I want to know, like where I've seen your brand, like your quote unquote your brand
Yeah.
evolve, and I think it's fucking cool as fuck that you got the smoking accessories now.
Yeah, man. Bless that guy who I
So
partnered up
like,
with. Yeah.
what I want to know, bro, is like where are you taking the Fury brand next? Because you have one of the most unique and most interesting flavored brands on Twitter.
Yeah.
Like you've got the cigar thing and the boozing.
Yeah.
You've got the writing aspect. I love that you're one of the few guys who has a writing style that's impossible to replicate. It's just raw and rugged.
I'm really proud of that.
Um,
Thank you very much. Yeah. Yeah.
no, I fucking love it, dude. I fucking love it. So like, what's next? Like, sort of stage of like the HOOA Fury brand for you?
So, given that I don't want to be lackluster, I started this like journey with the clients. I really
Yep.
want to not milk it out. That's the wrong word, but really pound it out. Like go the measure and see how far I can push that quote unquote offer, but also more so how many people can I service, but also at what kind of qualitative range, and really deliver on that, you know? So been working with like a handful of clients. So been really hammering in on that. And so that's as to like cash flow, I would say, you know, and I can be transparent as well. People think I'm like some kind of vagrant or something. I have fixed the boats, you know, but truth be told, I have still this wanderlust. And that's why I reached
Me
back to
too.
my books of like Jack Reacher that talks about not having a fixed abode. And I feel that, for example, I really like, well, shout out to like, for example, like people like Shawpreneur, Simon Shaw of the Money Twitter, and they have a nice agency going, and they have nice, you know, they do well, and they travel as well. And I was talking to a client about that. It's very personal for me that I change when I go into vacation mode. Basically the fury was born in vacation, on vacation. So
When you went to Thailand,
no, actually, well, I can give the TLDR on this podcast as well again. So there was this girl in 2018.
right?
All stories start with a girl, or some stories, 50%. But I was not in the right frame of mind. I was not quote unquote alpha enough to pull it off to the TLDR. And I don't think of this girl in a romantic way, but more as a symbol and as a totem that I still have a personal score to settle with myself. It's a couple years later, but I haven't forgotten. And it's not done yet. So I can never go back to the office. So if people listening to this, like, you can know that of me. It's not, so I have some people who were talking about construction and engineering stuff. And I basically said, yo, shoot me a DM if you want consultancy on that. Maybe I can, you know, get some bread from that, or help them, you know, not for money at all, because I really like still my education. Don't get me wrong. But it hasn't gotten me the full expression of the full final form of fury. And it's almost like a personal grudge match that does not keep me awake at night anymore, but it does kick me out of bed in the morning. And it's something that needs to be stamped out, rooted out, and the demons need to be crushed, the shadows need to be integrated. And once it's done, then I can be a little bit more calm, you know, like Eddy and stuff like that. But so no, but it's revolved around an amalgam of things. It's revolved around freedom, travel when and wherever, and oh yeah, the transparent part. Because of COVID, I was inhibited. You know, not gonna lie about it. You know, and certain things with women and my choices in the relationship style. I learned more about myself. No need to go into that. I'm not a relationship coach, but all these things that bring usher me into the next step. Also, like, do I want to be a father, for example? How many kids do I want to have? What I'm gonna. I always think about those things, even when I was younger. But now it's gotten to the more forefront of my brain because, well, my eggs aren't ticking or some shit, you know.
Yeah.
But I think more in terms of legacy always, you know, not
Yeah.
what I personally do on a day-to-day basis. You know, the tweets aren't legacy based or some shit. I tweet some dumb shit, but so the bigger goals, what you were talking about, Eddy, like those 6 months goals, I have a couple of them as well, and I feel like, you know, I have to reach them or die trying. You know, it's okay if people fail. I've come to grips with that as well, and so the Fury brand, it's, well, also like the lighter. Let's see how that goes, and more. Oh, some of my clients actually said I need to write more stories. And oh yeah, so I written the Thailand novel in 2019. It's called LLT. I don't have a sequel to that actually. And he asked me, why is that? You know? And I said, truth be told, I don't have a next story that's of equivalent valence. And I started thinking, why is that? Well, the travels aren't there, you know? So I have to collect more. I have to become a story collector.
Yeah.
And so basically, to put it in a nutshell, make a bigger splash, make a bigger mark. And
Nice. I
yeah,
love it, man.
that's the biggest TLDR, but it it slips in little nuances, you know. like David Goggins says, reap souls. You know, I really like that always. It's not about chest stomping, but it's more in the lineage of people like I always admired, you know, the homage to the greats, Napoleon, Caesar, Achilles, well, Hercules, who knows if he's real. But there was a certain lineage that I once read in The Prince of Machiavelli, that Alexander was inspired by, well, his father was so-called Zeus, but you had Achilles, Hercules, then Alexander. After Alexander, you had Caesar. After Caesar, you had, well, Genghis Khan, but he wasn't personally inspired. And then you had Napoleon, and you had maybe Charlemagne, you know, in the Europe. And then you had, well, then you had nothing. You have no greats anymore, you know?
No, not really, right? I mean,
No.
I wouldn't call him a great, but he's definitely like I think he's a huge positive influence on, in terms of like the modern archetype is Jocko. I think Jocko's a great guy.
Sure.
I mean, he writes books. He has a family. He has a business. He's been in war. Like, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, in 2022, that there is, you know, it's hard to like pick up. You know, it's, you know, Goggins, like Jocko. Like, it's hard to really pick a better example, really, of like a positive, you know, role model for the world.
Well, bro, I saw on Audible that Final Spin by Jocko is out, so we should read that.
Dude,
we should read it and do it on the
I
book
actually,
club.
it's getting great reviews from like actual like literary critics as well.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it out on Audible because I like Jocko's voice. You know, he's a very so. But we should review that on the book club. You know, just saying that.
I'm gonna put it down. Maybe I'll read it next. Final Spin, Jocko. We can do a review together.
Yeah, because I'm for sure. We talked about it. Remember? It really got me. Like, so fuck, Jocko's writing a fiction book.
I mean, that was a huge inspiration for me. I was like, man, if this guy can write a novel and he's got fucking like 4 kids and a business, and like he fucking works out and he trains jiu-jitsu, and he's like
he has his own gym. 50s. He has their own gym in San Diego. Fuck.
He's in his 50s. Like, fuck it, I can do that. You know?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Man. No, but
Sweet. Bro, we've been talking for like 3 hours. What the fuck?
Yeah, man, it's the greatest podcast ever.
It feels like 1 hour.
It does.
I looked at the clock. I was like, really? We started at 3?
It's because Newtonian linear time concepts don't really exist. Actually, it's an illusion.
No, it's an illusion, bro. You know, I a while ago I read. There's all these indigenous tribes all around Latin America, and a lot of them are like deep in the jungles, like in the Amazons or whatever. And there was a few years ago they discovered this tribe in the Amazons. Check this out. This tribe has no concept of what time is.
Oh yeah, I read about that. Yeah.
They literally have no concept of like a 24-hour day.
Yeah, and they don't use the word for brother or father because nobody's older.
Yes, like they just live in the moment. They're just literally just in the moment. They don't even think about. That's crazy.
But as a, well, you know, people like actionable advices or mini drills. Just for people listening, try to go a whole day without checking the clock on your phone. The day will feel different. It's just a mini exercise.
Interesting. I might try that.
It's
I mean, obviously, like you can sort of mark it based on like the sunrise and the sunset.
Of course.
But
oh, truth be told, you would even call it differently because you would say something very woo-woo, almost very floaty. You would just say the god comes up to give us light or something.
Yeah, exactly.
And then it gets dark again, and it means that we have to sleep because we have to restore our bodies or something.
Yeah.
See how your vocabulary, my phrase, I didn't use the word of time nowhere, right?
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. I like
Dude,
that.
I read so I've been traveling last week, and I did this. I went on this. I was staying at this coffee/chocolate farm.
Okay.
I did this. I did this little tour, like chocolate making tour. They basically gave me through the history of chocolate.
Okay.
So like chocolate comes from the cacao fruit.
Yeah, I've heard about it. Yeah.
And the way they discovered it, like the fruit comes from the Amazon, but like they discovered it in Mexico, this
Yeah.
indigenous tribe, and it was known as the fruit of the gods.
Mm-hmm.
And so they used to make this paste. Like they roast the seeds and then they grind it up into a paste and they would drink it.
Yeah.
And like it used to be like this, because it was like from the gods, only the elites, like the higher ups, could consume it.
Yeah.
And that's how they got to Europe, because the royal families of France imported it from Mexico.
Yeah.
And then I think it was the Spaniards who added sugar to it, and that's how it became chocolate.
Yeah.
But I thought it was interesting how it was like known as the fruit of the god. It literally means the fruit of the gods, I believe.
Yeah. I think I saw one of those supplement health guru threads on it on Twitter of cacao.
Oh, okay.
The cacao.
Yeah.
So shit, I don't have it in my current stack, but you and I should be put on that, because in cacao there's something called bromide or bromine. That's you cannot really find it in other food, and that is the stuff that is the stuff of gods, basically.
So I ate the fruit. It tastes like. Have you ever had mangosteen?
Once maybe, because of my roots. Yeah.
Okay, it's like in the same family like mangosteen and lychee.
Mm-hmm.
It's like a seed with like this white goop sort of thing around it. You have to suck on the seed.
Yes.
And that's what the cacao fruit's like.
Beautiful.
Yeah. But yeah, fruit of the gods, man.
No, but that's good, because I've been thinking about like longevity supplement stack as well, especially when I smoke. Like, for example, I've been like on certain supplements to balance it out, like magnesium, calcium, those kinds of stuff,
Yeah, I would have thought, bro, the smoke itself is a supplement stack.
Truth be told, well, I can talk about it here, because smoking, what is it? It either gives more DHT or expresses more DHT in your bloodstream. So it is
What's DHT?
It's one of the testosterone types,
Ah, okay.
And for us Asianist listeners, or us Asian guys, genetically and statistically, they say Asians have less DHT. That's why they cannot form a beard, or why people shit on that they're soy and shit like that. But point is, if you smoke more, you get more DHT. I don't know. It's just an experiment going on. But
I wonder. That's probably why, like the highest smoking countries in the world or Asian, Japan, China,
makes sense.
Indonesia, like massive smokers.
It makes sense then. Maybe it's a form of compensation or something. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, whatever. I'm definitely gonna be smoking more cigars this year. That's for sure.
No, but cigars is perfectly fine for DHT, because the smoke doesn't go in the lungs. I cannot measure it with a device or anything, but it's just in your mouth. In my honest opinion, just make sure to balance it out. Don't burn your tongue, burn your palate, nothing like that. It's perfect, fine.
Yeah. Nice.
Thanks for the shout out, by the way. I saw that on the timeline. Perfect.
About the stories?
No, but about the cigars, like.
Oh yeah, hell yeah, man.
No, oh well, I can be transparent actually with the audience listening. I have it in my annual review in my journal of 2020 and 2021. It is written there. It's something like, I don't know how I would have done this with cigars or something. So when the year closes, I'm like, very reflective, very in that mood. And fuck, those cigars, they came in handy, man. Like they were fucking trusty companions, Yeah, I don't know how to explain it, because they are there in your most deepest thoughts, kind of, Nobody was there. No guy, no girl, no mom, no dad, nobody. Just that fucking cigar, has no name, but he was there. It's like they say about the gym. The gym is always there for me. The iron never lies.
Yeah.
For me, I have that synergetic bond with cigars. So there's that.
I love it. I'm gonna get a couple of sticks this week for my Christmas, for my birthday.
Yeah.
And I will smoke one of those in your honor, my friend.
Yeah. No, but thanks for coming on. It was
this is fun, man.
Yeah,
I already want to come back.
That is the purpose of these things. Oh, so you were asking what is the Fury brand gonna be? I'm gonna show everybody that I'm the best podcaster in the fucking universe, you know? So
HOOA to that, man.
no, but thanks very much. There were a lot of stuff. What was really funny is that you catered towards certain topics that I pre-planned, but you came up all by yourself, you know? So that was a good sign of the flow. So I was like, oh, he's just talking
Yeah.
about, you know, let him roll.
That's good sync, man. And you know, like so we're talking about 3 hours. It feels like an hour, so that's always a good sign.
That's the best of signs. The best sign is when you can be in silence with somebody without talking any, you know?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, the last word is usually for promotional purposes or the last word. So go ahead, man.
I don't really have much to say. Follow me on Twitter at War on Weakness. And yeah, you know, if you want to have a chat, shoot me a DM, holler at me on Twitter, and that's really it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. First off, I want to thank Eddy because we made a mini promise. It was going to be the first podcast of this year. We made it happen in quite fast and efficiently and flowingly. And in my opinion, I think it was the greatest podcast I've ever did, actually.
This is definitely the best podcast experience I've ever had as a guest. So
yeah,
fucking love it. I fucking love it, man.
It was good shit. I didn't expect. I'm definitely gonna try. You know how I am and try to top myself, but more in the books. Like me and Eddy gonna have book club, movie club, everything, and you know, like and subscribe, spread the word. HOOA podcast is the best from now on. Always has been. But no, thanks for tuning in. If you're one of those guys that got at least one golden insight out of this, bless you, man. And try to make the world a better place and be a good person because it can be really shitty out there. So make the best out of it. HOOA.
HOOA. Cheers, man.